Here.
Greetings, sentient beings. This broadcast is not intended for children. There will be adult themes and strong language. So today is International Transgender Visibility Day. So for the occasion... I'm sorry, what did you say?
Well, if today is Trans Visibility Day, can you see me?
Yep. So today we have with us Laura.
Hi.
Math Blade.
Hi.
Our own Jenny Morgan.
Hi, kids.
And Diana, the Lavender Lady.
Yay! all I need to do now is the Kermit thing, the blah, blah, blah.
So,
for some reason, I thought we were going to have more, but I guess not, huh?
I was expecting a couple other people. I haven't gotten responses here, so.
Well, Will said that he would come in if you needed somebody. Just
yeah,
send his door and he'll be here.
Yeah,
okay.
Will and Doc had both mentioned that they would step in if there was some room. I was expecting Will to be in here, so.
Okay, then.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, Will and Doc are in the side chat along with Granny and Greg Hartwick.
Wasn't Godless Granny shown? Doesn't she have a trans daughter, or was it grandchild?
I think there may be somebody transgendered.
Yeah.
Or whatever in that mix somewhere, and I'm not sure I remember who.
Yeah, Granny, if you want to, come in too.
I know it's Godless Granny, I just can't remember what part of her family was trans.
Mm-hmm.
Was either daughter or granddaughter? Or
there are more of us than you think.
Yeah, Robin.
Yeah, I was on a stream with Robin before.
Robin's in the chat. You should bring her in.
If she wants to be, she doesn't need to be. But I mean, they don't need to. I mean, yeah, they. Because.
Yeah, and we should probably start with that of going around what everybody's preferred pronouns here.
Oh yay!
Well, mine are pretty obvious. She, her, but.
Well, not necessarily. I mean,
it's a great thing. It's a great thing about my name because it kind of gives away. There aren't, it's not like Tracy or something like that, which could be either.
It has nothing to do with name.
Hey, Will, how you doing, honey?
Hey, Will.
Hi.
Everything to do with.
Yeah, I've tended to go to how people were presenting, but some people still prefer they, them, regardless of how they're presenting.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm Math Blade, he, him, so that's easy.
Midday is becoming real popular.
Okay.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay, so Math Blade?
Yeah, I'm just he, him, pretty simple, straightforward.
Okay.
And, well, I'm your basic old school binary she, her. Yeah, it's... when I was growing up, I was never exposed to any of the alternate pronouns, so I never really got used to them.
Well, they're only very recent, Diana. That's what's so hard for everybody. Is that
I think they only started coming into nomenclature recently, but there have been non-binary people for the longest time.
Oh, certainly.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Well, also with the internet, it's even just the last few years that they're kind of becoming more of a consensus on a standard.
That would be nice.
Back in the very early 80s, there were I would say the majority of professionals dealing with us as clients or patients would have no idea what to do with a non-binary person. They would not know what to call them, and they frequently would call them by how they happen to appear that day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or it. And it wasn't the...
Wait a minute, how much of that is there?
It wasn't the offensive it that you will hear used nowadays. It was because they just didn't know what to call these folks.
Yeah, I've always tended to default to however somebody was presenting on any given day.
True.
But
And then the other thing, the medical profession has always been behind the curve.
yeah,
I mean, I'm not saying this to slight them. It's even back when I was in school, one of my professors said that the medical profession is about 15 to 20 years behind the research area of things. And so that gets to be interesting.
well, and for me, I'm
beyond
getting used to the they them now, which I really hadn't encountered until like the past 2 years.
So
Because even the LGBT groups I was in, they tended to prefer the Z and Zer, which it doesn't seem anyone's using anymore.
Sorry. I've been out in the community for 20 years now, and pronouns are still hard for someone like me as well.
Okay.
And I've been in the community for a while. It's a generational thing. My generation was right on the cusp where everybody was called gay. So if you were LGBTQIA plus, you were just called gay. My family still doesn't understand that, and they've had 20 years of education. And I'm in my bathrobe because I was gonna take the day off because it's not about me today. Because I'm usually on Purple's show every week, but I was gonna take the day off. I'm being respectful today, So I'm here as a respectful co-host with my giant cup of coffee.
William, that makes you valuable. The fact that you are certainly an ally and also well familiar with definitions, nomenclature, all that kind of stuff, and you're just a sensitive, aware person.
And in my life, in my travels and journey, there have been trans people who have helped me out in my life. I'm still friends with people who are just valuable people in my life, and I wouldn't be here without them. One actually who she introduced me to the community in Hollywood, and that changed my life.
Okay, then.
So I am always grateful, always grateful. But she kind of lost her mind, and she went in the Trump direction.
Oh no, that's horrible.
If I say any more, you could Google 3 words and find her in 10 seconds. But it's a good friend of mine.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, it's not Lauren Boebert now, is it?
No.
He said 3 words, so it's Mary Taylor Greene.
No, it shocked me. It shocked me how many people under the LGBTQIA plus umbrella, people of color, people with disabilities voted for Trump. It was shocking to me. It was just
I was confused how anyone in a minority group could have voted for him, but
I'm so sure I know who you're talking about. I'm not going to say it.
So if you vote for, and I this is a good friend of mine. So if you were on the other side, I don't like disembowling anybody. I won't promote her anymore. This is someone I knew, just a good friend of mine,
Okay, then.
And it's not even disrespect. It's just I'm on a different side. I saw it another way.
One of the things that I learned about being on the internet over the years is that sometimes the only thing you've got in common is the thing that you have in common, whether, I model railways or you're transgendered or you're, whatever. All of those things, in every other way, though, you are different people, whether it's political or social or, economic or whatever.
Something's wrong on the internet? When does that ever happen?
Colleen, hi, dear. How you doing?
I'll tell you, Laura, it was shocking to see someone that I respected. I've gone to protests with her. We got maced by the LAPD at a protest. To see her standing in front of Trump Towers, being pro-Trump on television. This is someone I knew from LA, and I was shocked. I was calling people did this person miss their medication or something? What's going on? What happened? But people change. people change, you know.
Oh yeah.
Well, one of the difficulties for America is that your news is bipolar.
Mhm.
You know, that it's so politically divided that, you know, if you're a Republican, you've got to get behind anything that's, you know, that is of that party, so to speak.
Well, especially now, yeah,
Yeah, you know, and
because the orange demands loyalty.
And we don't have sides anymore, you know. It's one or the other. It used to be, oh, I'm this plus this and this. It's no, you're either a Republican or you're a Democrat, you know.
yeah,
And if you're a Republican, like Laura said, you have to goose step in lock with everyone else.
Ugh.
yeah, and to be honest, you know, as someone who looks at it from the outside, it's largely the same, you know, from the opposite side as well. There is certainly, you need to be this and you need to do that and so on. You know, and you know,
Well, sure.
what I've seen the American news channels, you know, and it's like MSNBC and CNN are the Democratic propaganda channel, and Fox News is the Republican propaganda channel.
Absolutely. And you know, because I'm an extreme lefty, like I love Rachel Maddow, but she has an agenda just as much as anybody else, you know.
Oh,
Yeah,
sure.
funnily enough, I've actually got a perfect example of that with Rachel Maddow, because I love Rachel Maddow.
Me too.
I'm actually reading one of her books right now, Blowout.
Awesome.
And so one of the stories about a year or so ago now was how there was a cargo plane heading from Iraq, and it was going to America, and it had stopped off at Glasgow Prestwick Airport, and the pilots and crew had travelled 45 minutes down the road to stay at a Trump resort. Now, that part is the bit that should be the news, but what was tagged on the end of it was, it's really unusual for them to go there, and they buy, you know, if they buy fuel there, it's more expensive, and you know, well, it wasn't unusual at all, because the range of a C-17 cargo plane isn't long enough to get all the way from Germany, which would probably be the last best place, or maybe in England, which is pretty much exactly the same distance, to Scotland. And when they go over up Scotland, over to Iceland, and in over Nova Scotia, Canada, and then into the East Coast. So it just wouldn't have enough fuel. And that's the reason why they have stopped there for 50 years. They've been going into Prestwick. So it's like, you know, it was like the you know, it's like, okay, here's the story, and then there's the extra bit that was added on that kind of gives it a twist, and it's like, no, that's not true. And the question is, do they know this and then they're lying about it, or are they just ignorant of the facts?
Hi, Sam, can I ask your pronouns really quick?
Today, they, them.
Cool, they, them it is. Thanks.
Okay.
What's that?
And
So
then
we have
at
some
3 o'clock it will be, no.
Haven't seen you around for ages, son.
I've kind of been around here and there, but yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, your hair's looking great.
Thanks. It needs a redo at the top, but
It's long and thick, unlike mine.
yeah, I have my granddad's hair, and my friends nicknamed my granddad Einstein.
I want to know, you know, don't you think that was a bit inappropriate to steal your granddad's hair?
Oh no, he doesn't need it anymore. It was only going to get burned otherwise.
I remember as a child making sandcastles with my grandfather. Then my mother hid his urn.
I'm writing that one down. I am writing that one down.
My
Check
granddad
and check.
had one of his friends show up to both his wake and his funeral dressed as the Grim Reaper.
Okay, then. I like
Like
it.
he bought the costume and was like, I want you to wear this. And
You
my
know-
granddad also threw his wake before he died because, in his view, what's the point of paying for a party you're not going to?
There you go. There's somebody I knew years ago had 2 urns with the ashes of her husband and her mother, and she dumped them together in the same container because they hated each other.
There was a TV show many years ago. It was like a comedy show, comedy sports quiz, and in one of them there was like the excuses round, and one of the excuses was one of the question was why was a player's dead father not allowed to come into the ground? And sort of, they were making jokes like, because he looked less and less like his ID card every week, was it because he was rubbish at the wave? It'd be like, yay, yay. And then, but the reason was that he died, and the container that he was in was glass, or was breakable. And they weren't, they don't allow you to bring glass containers into the football ground because, vandalism and hooliganism back in the 80s kind of reason. It's legacy of that. And so they ended up having to put Granddad in a milk carton.
Oh, jeez.
To bring him in and sprinkle his ashes on the ground.
Yep.
And one of them's, it's getting a bit bad when you can't bring a bottle of pop into the ground.
Okay, then. I like it.
Okay. Normally I would just run with this stuff, but today I do want to try to keep things a little more on topic.
Oh,
I'll
darn
tell you
you.
what, still. Well, the first thing about on topic is my transition is happening finally.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? That's great.
After 2.25 years of sitting on a waiting list, which was December 2018, and of course writing off 2020 because because of COVID and all the general clinics were shut because obviously there's still doctors and nurses who are trained for medicine. And they were being reutilized for like sick and dying people, or people who were sick because they caught it and needed to be replaced, even if it was on temporary, while they got better. Yeah, I mean, I made a meme last week, and it was it's like a double. Meme, because the first meme is an old one that someone did ages ago, which was 2020, the year your wheelie bin went out more than you did. And I've added an extra bit, which is 2021, where you'll probably need a vaccine passport to take your wheelie bin out.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the UK system is really, really bad. That you sit on a waiting list for ages and ages, and then you get your first appointment, and then you sit on the waiting list for another more ages and ages, and then you finally get your second one, and that's when you get hormones.
Wow.
It is bad to the point that I am seriously considering private healthcare for my transition.
Yeah. I considered it myself. I just need to sort some things out.
I found a relatively cheap one. Gender GP.
Okay.
Gender GP's okay. The only problem is they're kind of, they're off the system.
Yeah,
Because,
they are.
I mean, the two of them prescribe hormones, but they're actually not. They're struck off the register, and they're operating out of Spain because they were giving them to people who are underage and stuff like that because they recognise the problem and
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
something we've got to
I
hit
think
on.
they're trying to get it fixed so that they can come back into the UK, but we shall see.
But,
Yeah, we're definitely going to have to hit that topic.
Well,
So
and-
I have a quick question.
Sure.
So what else besides days like this? Like, what other things can we do to bring awareness to all issues, trans related? I'm saying because there's many.
I don't know. This is the thing.
Well,
Okay, I know I'm a conspiracist to some extent. I'm not crazy, but at least not this afternoon. I'm not. But for example, in Alabama, or not Alabama, I'm sorry, Arkansas,
Yes.
where you have that thing going on with the legislature trying to criminalize treating trans kids. We have the call going out to have the legislators' phones ringing off the hook, but they might very well see that as a sign of victory.
Mhm.
And
so one thing I found, because I grew up in Arkansas, I didn't realize
I'm
what
so
transitions
sorry.
were then, because, well, grew up in Arkansas. That should kind of explain enough.
yeah,
But
mhm.
one thing I would do is there tends to be an underground. When you can't be above ground, there tends to be an underground. So just actively listening and trying to, whenever you come across a bad idea, explaining why, just being in the moment. Because a lot of times when things get in the news like this, people will talk about it. Like, if you're in Arkansas and you happen to be in a coffee shop and hear somebody saying, "Hey, trans people suck," or they're under a wrong impression, countering that impression can be one thing an ally will do. You might not change their minds, but someone else might hear you and it might start a spiral chain effect. You're
Educate
not really
yourself.
going for results, just put out positivity.
Absolutely.
And another one is talk to your senator. You know, because ultimately these things only get, or you know, or just the what do you got, state councillors or whatever. This, you know, to those, because at the end of the day, they are working for you. You voted for them, or whether even if they didn't vote for you, sorry, even if you didn't vote for them and they got in, you know, because more people did vote for them, they still represent you.
Yep.
You know, they
Yeah.
be on the opposite team, as it were, but they still do represent you. That's their job. They're supposed to represent everybody who, you know, because that, yeah.
So what can we do to fight harmful representation? Like people who are anti-trans.
One of the things you need to do is you don't know if somebody's anti-trans until they start spewing their stuff to the public or to small groups or discussions and stuff. Take the time to educate, and I'm speaking with allies right now, but trans people as well. Educate yourself enough on the science, the contemporary science about this, so that you can
Hey, this is the USA. What's science?
So that you can counter the ancient science that they tend to use as a way to legitimize their religious zealotry. They've decided that that's one of the ways that they can get an entry into the moderate crowd's mind is by calling this science, and it's not science.
Absolutely.
It's just another piece of right-wing lies, and we need to be able to come back with actual facts and information that says, no, that is not true. This is true. That is ancient science. This is contemporary.
The real problem with that is that it creates a bit of an environment where, in order to be trans, you have to study bits of biology, history, sociology, psychology, and various other things.
No,
I'm fine to no, but
you don't have to do that if you're trans.
Jenny,
you have to do that if you want to be an activist.
What I'm saying with that is that a lot of trans people don't want to have to do that, but end up learning about this shit so that because they have these arguments thrown at them. And that was where I was going to try to bring it back round to activism of if you want to be more proactive with it, having at least like a basic understanding of these different arguments that are going to be constantly made and being able to explain why those are shitty arguments will save baby trans people from having to jump in the deep end with it.
Mm-hmm. And then the other thing to remember is that, when Jenny was speaking of ancient science might only be 5 years old. Because the field is opening up and changing that quickly.
Except they're grabbing the science from the 1920s, the 1910s, the 1800s. that
I
there's
recently,
that there's only two genders. There's male and female, and it's what's in your pants when you're born.
within the past week, ran into somebody who was spouting out eugenics, and one of the reasons I asked the questions is because I lost it, and instead of coming with any credible answer, I just came with nothing but emotions, and I was like, read a book, So I had to take a step back in myself and be like, next time I come across something like that, I'm just gonna, come with the facts instead of just telling them they're a complete idiot. So that's why I asked the question, because I'm all emotion. When someone starts spouting off idiotic things like that, I'm like, what's wrong with you? So that's why I keep on asking, like, what else can we do to bring more visibility? Because people are just uneducated. They really do not know what's going on. So what can we do to bring this issue to the forefront where it's an everyday issue, where people, because in my life, I see no difference between anybody. Wash your hands and be nice to people and wear a mask.
There you go.
If I may,
Hans,
because
hi.
I've been in work situations because I work in an office, well, virtually right now, but I actually work in a office type job, I should say. And I ended up coming out because, well, a couple of different reasons, but one of which was because we had some graphics, and one of the colleagues said this character looks a little bit like a slur word I refuse to use for transgender woman, and it just killed me. And I think promoting just a general sense of positivity, and you kind of just have to live in a moment and be open and understanding and promote that culture. For example, if you're coming into an office and their standard practice is to not really have a transgender policy, ask for one, even though you're not trans. It gives people an opening. Just promote services that remove the need for an underground.
And thank you for mentioning policy, because even if you don't think you need a policy, even if everybody's getting along fine and everything, there will come that moment when you need something hard and fast, shall I say, something written down where you could refer to the rules. And every time there will be a situation, and you want to have it there to diffuse what could happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it could also be that there's already somebody in that workplace that hasn't come out about it because they're not comfortable, just because they don't know what kind of procedures or anything would come up.
Well, tell me about that.
You may make it a more comfortable environment for someone else to come out.
Yeah.
With the decision of the Supreme Court that Charles Strangio brought forth, an employer cannot discriminate based on gender and being trans at this time, and so it's perfectly appropriate for any employee to say, "I would like to know what I would like to see your written policy on transgender issues." Is your non-discrimination issue. They're not required to have diversity classes or written policies in support, but they certainly are probably required on some level to have at least a policy statement that says we don't discriminate.
When even common courtesy stuff like that can even extend to when people talk about how it's useful to have pronouns in your bio, that is because it creates a better environment for trans people to put their pronouns in their bio, because otherwise it's just trans people who do it. But another thing I will add is that we shouldn't be trying to make anyone put pronouns in their bio, because if they're a closeted trans person, that's forcing them to misgender themselves.
Mm.
So while we should encourage people to do it, we shouldn't force people to do it, and that's a mistake I see a lot of trans activists make.
Okay, yeah, I very much agree.
I agree.
I can live with that.
Court adjourned.
Yeah, okay, I like it.
Yeah.
So will it be pizza and beer?
Sure. We don't even have to vote for that.
What's important to understand, though, with that court decision that was made, that was only a court decision that dealt with employment and the policy within the federal government. Okay, an average employer. The reason people say an average employer can't discriminate now is because if they did, it would be taken to court and it would be found unlawful or unconstitutional based on the court decision that the feds had for themselves. The real remedy is the HR1 that is trying to get through Congress right now, which specifically states that transgender people have the same rights as everybody else.
So in the state of California,
if that doesn't get through the Senate, it's gone through the House. It has to get through the Senate now, and of course Mitch McConnell and their band of hate people are doing their best to keep it from going through. It has a lot of other stuff on it other than just this particular issue of ours, and so some of the difficulty getting through is that, but they're definitely fighting it because it mentions us.
So
I'm sorry. After Will, I'd like to say something. Sorry.
We won't let you.
Where I live in,
you should be getting a hold of your federal representatives and demanding that they get that through the Senate.
Yeah.
In the state of California, we do have a misgendering law where if you maliciously misgender someone, you can be fired or put in jail for it. So we basically there has to be a language developed where we all just kind of have to leave each other alone. And people are so against this law in California, but it just protects people from being discriminated against. And unfortunately, we had to make a law to make it clear, to make a statement like, "Hey, leave people alone," because that's my base argument is, whether you agree or disagree, just leave people alone. So in the state of California, if first they'll fire you, but if you harass somebody or stalk them, you can go to jail for misgendering somebody.
Yeah, unfortunately, there was a case I was just reading about last week, and now I forget which state it was, but that the university professor was intentionally misgendering a student.
Yeah.
I think it was in France, actually. I want to say. It was on Piers Morgan, I think, too.
I thought there was one in the U.S. recently.
No, I mean, there's the whole load of bullshit Shade's been going through.
Oh. But basically, the court had decided that, legally, they couldn't fire the professor for intentionally misgendering the student. Although, as in kind of an aside, the court also mentioned that the university also couldn't do anything if the student decided to refer to the professor as a pompous asshole.
That's a fair trade. That's a fair trade.
It's funny that gets mentioned because in 2019 I went to Manchester for Manchester Pride, and afterwards I ended up chatting to a trans man outside a cafe, and then we noticed that inside the cafe were the hate street preachers who'd come to the city just to sort of scream awful stuff, Amusing. While I was taking part in it, went around a corner and they were on the right hand side, and we couldn't hear them because even though they had megaphones, couldn't hear them because there was like seven deep crowd cheering their support. Which was amazing.
Really quick, before we change topics, I did want to touch on the employment discrimination stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the court case that in the Supreme Court was good, but that doesn't include most private employers. Right. And so saying that, you might go to court and you might win, you might actually not. And that's kind of like a dangerous assumption to have going forward, is that you're okay in the courts, just power through, when really that's not always the accurate case. And it should be more, we need to promote a healthy environment. Because I've been in offices, just because something is illegal doesn't mean it doesn't happen.
Yep.
And the other thing too,
of course.
people
Yeah.
tend to forget that going through the courts is not free. It is not cheap.
And
all.
it is not quick.
Oh yeah, that's the big one.
No. Now, what kind of piggybacking a second off what Laura said a minute ago.
Yes, dear.
I quite enjoy talking to some of the people who like regularly street preach in Manchester, but I sometimes want to dress up as visibly queerly as possible and offer them a hug, wearing my pentacle necklace.
I like it.
I really want to go to Manchester Pride when I next have the option.
Sort of like Eli Bosnick licking Ray Comfort. Is that the way that works? if anybody
Might
saw
as
that
well
picture.
be given how they react.
Yeah.
I mean, at the 2019 Pride, that thing I was telling. So in the cafe, the hate preachers. So I decided, you know what? Since they come to pick on us, pick on the LGBT people, I'll go in and give them a taste of their own medicine. And so I went in. There was one guy who kept misgendering me, kept calling me sir. And I said, don't call me sir, I'm not a sir. And he said, yeah, I have to because that's what you are. I said, no, you're choosing to with your free will, and I'm asking you not to. And after he called me sir about another 3 times, I said, right, look, I've asked you to not call me sir. So from now on, if you call me sir, I will call you something you don't want me to call you. I'll call you arsehole. Now that's
Fair trade. Again, fair trade.
Now that's established, it's up to you how much I have to call you that. After 15 times of me calling him arsehole, he said I was being abusive. And I said, I'm sorry. You're upset about the thing that you're causing. I gave you the rules. And
I'm fucking asshole.
I do that with my little and that's a tactic I employ with my small siblings. If you do this, I will do this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
I'm sorry. Have you ever read Matthew 7, the one about hypocrisy? It was all right when you were giving out the abuse, giving out the offense, but when the offense is coming your way, you're upset about it.
And
sorry.
It is significant how many people think that way. And it's a horrible thing when you do it to me, even though it's what I've been doing to you all of this time.
Yes.
I don't want to be taken badly, but there's only one way to take this. It's just like the Christian attitude, where they feel put upon, they feel persecuted, because persecution to them is taking away their ability to persecute somebody else.
Absolutely. That actually ties into what I was gonna say.
Why
do the hate preachers follow such beautiful things like pride parades, or even like the Rose Parade here in California? After the Rose Parade, they come marching with their big sign that say if you're this or this or this, you're going to hell. They follow anything that's fun, anything that people go to be themselves. They harass people, and if you confront them, then you're harassing them.
Laura,
there's two
I agree with your policy of asshole. But what I will do if I'm in a situation where I'm with a stranger and they misgender me, I will misgender them right back.
That's always a good tactic.
The next sentence comes out of my mouth. I intentionally misgender them, and I keep doing it until they get the message.
Taking notes.
Or the other fun one.
Where is my notepad? I'm writing that down.
I tend to do the whole, because my pronouns I will tell street preachers is they them, and when they say you're not plural, I say, excuse me, I didn't get possessed by demons just for you to not use my pronouns.
Oh my. One thing I have been known to do, and this works in many situations, if I'm even accidentally misgendered, I'll show off my bust line. Yeah. You were saying what?
I did see one which was funny, which was if you keep misgendering me, your pronouns are going to be was, were.
I like that.
Nice. I feel like a lot of these are the same as when I tell Christians I'll pray for them.
I would be careful about showing the bust line when you're misgendered, because that works for trans ladies. It doesn't exactly work for trans guys, because
Oh,
I
right,
used to
right,
be
yeah.
rather endowed.
Well, we all
Okay, okay.
our own
Were you
style
one
of
of those unfortunate people who had like a G cup?
I had a double D, but yeah, close enough.
I'm
Uh-huh.
in the situation. I'm in the situation, of course, that if I'm misgendered, and I have done this a couple times, where I begin to take down my pants or skirt or whatever to let them see. I said, would you like to see? Did you want to see?
Yay!
Fast. I mean, that's just like, no. You know, shit then.
Oh shit! Oh man! It's
And if they
I
say, yes, I want to see, I'll show them. And they'll, okay, fine, take a look.
I
Now
get
what are you
asked
gonna say?
all the time what race I am, and people are so real. They'll ask me, "What are you?" And I'll tell. Or the old question was, "What do I call you?" And I would always say William, because that's my name. I was just like William. Like, what else are you gonna call me? You know.
Do you have a smart ass response though?
I used to, but I'm not angry anymore. I'm not as angry as I was when I was younger, you know, because when I, depending on where I lived, somebody would ask me every day what race I was, and I just got sick of it. After a while, I was like, I would tell people, it's none of your fucking business.
yeah. This is the thing. What's the big deal? I don't get it.
Yeah, it's
really.
like, I'm sorry. Why would that make a difference? Are you going to judge me differently because because of what skin color I may or may not have?
This doesn't wash off.
What heritage I may or may not have, rather.
But I was a lot
go south
more,
of the Mason-Dixon line and see what happens.
And because I'm extremely bisexual, and back then I was even more extremely bisexual. You know, like I was way more sensitive back then. So I got tired of people asking me, and so it took me years to get over it. Because every time I'd go somewhere new, someone would be like, "What race are you? What do I call you? Who are you?" You know, I just got tired of it after a while. But I traveled around a lot, you know, so I expected it because people are curious.
Do you know what?
Yeah.
When you said I'm extremely bisexual, I'm thinking, what does that mean? Because when I think of sexuality, I think of sort of, straight and gay, and then bi people are somewhere in the middle, kind of thing.
Well,
if you're can't be extreme one or the other.
No, I say that I was in a relationship with a man for over a year. I don't know. I don't like to gatekeep or qualify, you know.
Yeah, I feel like the phrase being extremely bisexual just tends to mean that you are like you follow either you fit a lot of the stereotypes or it's very obvious. Like I think I'm very blatantly queer. Just
I would never have known.
I like saying extreme because it's one of those words like mega or super. You know, I'm from California. I still say tubular, spectacular.
I'm getting used to that. Haven't lived here a while.
Don't worry, I was being facetious anyway.
That's okay.
Oh, shit. Everyone say hi to Jen.
Hi, Jen.
Hi, Jen.
We're being overrun with Jens now. Okay.
Half of this community is just called
What
Jen.
are your pronouns, if you don't mind?
She, her.
Thanks.
But
Okay, then.
if you mess up or whatever, it's fine. Like I won't get mad.
She'll kill you.
I probably won't even notice, to be honest. Like people have asked me, why don't you correct people when they get your pronouns wrong? And it's like I honestly don't notice because I zone out all the time.
That leads into what I was just thinking.
You live in one of those cannabis states, don't you?
Well, it's medical, but it's not. That's not a reason. It's
I do.
I don't want to get into it.
It's called the state of California and the state of disillusion at the same time.
There you go. Yeah, but as far as misgendering goes, sometimes you just have to roll with the flow because over the phone, always, every time, I'm always misgendered. Can you guess why? And it's like, okay, I know it's going to happen. It's no big deal. You know, it's my voice. I know. You know, I'm not sounding like this. That's true, but it still is a little on the low side. And
I get
people do
misgendered
notice.
I get misgendered on the phone all the time. All the
I
time.
was
Oh,
I was thinking of
most-
practicing a new voice, but like I've already practiced to get my voice this high, which it's not very high at all. My natural voice is actually down here, and it sucks because I have a very masculine voice. So I try to talk up here, and
Yeah.
I hate my voice so much.
If I didn't smoke for 20 years, my voice was much higher.
Just human
well,
word
there's-
breathing.
but I smoked and it brought it down a few.
Now I'm really weird in that my natural voice rests about here, but like sometimes it actually gets a little bit higher, and sometimes I'm just kind of speaking like this, which is a bit quieter. But, you know.
Yeah,
And
but
kind of it's
I
what
need to
I find
get
it really
coffee.
easy to swap around a lot, but also people can never decide whether my voice is masculine, feminine, or androgynous. And
Okay.
like I've had different people say different things this week alone.
I've just put a link in the side, which is a voice coaching, what do you call it? List, mix,
oh wow.
Playlists.
Yeah, playlist.
playlist. Thank you. That was the word I was searching for. Yeah, and it's actually the person that I saw in October 2019.
Oh, okay.
And he's very good. He actually works with the Gender Identity Clinic in Manchester. So
Okay.
I tell you, I found that
stick it in the live
pitch,
chat.
the pitch of my voice went up quite a bit when I quit smoking. It was lowering my voice like crazy, and I sounded like Kenny Rogers with an extra helping of gravel. It was wrecking the shit out of my throat. Well, I had smoked for almost 50 years. It started at 12. I quit when I was 61. But yeah, give it a 4 or 5 months, and I started getting my voice, and it was nice. So you might consider quitting smoking if you happen to be smoking, and you're trans woman.
So my whole thing is right, and I had a discussion with one of my classmates about this. Like with welding, I'm already inhaling a bunch of toxic fumes, anyways.
Bleh.
Most of them get vacuumed up by the vent, but like not all of them. So, I'm gonna get lung cancer probably from that, more likely than smoking, or like, get fucked up lungs from that. So I don't even care anymore.
Well, it is a question of reducing your exposure where you can. That
Yeah.
I don't smoke, but I have a lot of problems with my throat just because of the same kind of thing of all sorts of building materials I handle that wind up gassing out while I'm working with them.
I hate smoking. My dad was a chain smoker, so yeah, just no.
See,
Even if it deepens my voice, I never will smoke.
I will in theory, were I to visit Amsterdam, I will smoke weed or whatever. But I might mix some tobacco in it to make it burn a little bit longer, because otherwise you don't really get that much of the weed.
Okay.
But other than that, I don't smoke, and a lot of my friends do smoke, so I keep a pack of cigarettes by my bed for if I have friends over. But I don't smoke, and my granddad used to smoke 80 cigarettes a day.
Well, I have a
That's
half
not
cough that I
familiar.
sound like I've been smoking for 30 years. And that actually was almost the deal breaker with my fiance, was I just didn't want to live with a smoker again.
Yeah, I was a very, very, very heavy smoker at one point, and when you said 80 cigarettes a day, it was like, yeah, I know those days. I remember that shit.
I was up to almost 2 packs a day.
Oh, holy shit! I was a 4-pack a day
I did-
Camel smoker. It was
I
wow.
did 3 packs a day for probably 5-6 years.
Mhm.
I used to I smoked Camel non-filters, and those will kill you.
Yes, they will.
That's what I
Ooh.
started with.
I can still
The
taste
other
them.
one,
Just talking about it, I can still taste them.
And like his
the other one I used
Oh,
to
yeah.
too.
LSMFT.
Okay, I would inhale cigars. I would inhale a pipe.
Yeah,
I mean, I
I've
was
done
I was
that.
hardcore.
I smoked
Yeah,
pipe tobacco for
so-
years.
I haven't quit
Whenever
smoking cigarettes yet. I'll have a cigarette every now and then, but like when I stopped smoking regularly, I was like up to 3 packs a day, and then I switched to vaping. So now I
Okay.
only buy a pack for social smoking. You know?
Vape is so weird to me because it's like it looks like it should be cold, but it's warm.
I guess.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess when you're vaporizing it, as you're saying, vape, you have to warm it up, and I guess you're actually boiling that shit, right?
Well, it's a heating coil, right? And the heating coil gets so hot that like the cotton starts to warm the juice, right? And the juice
Oh yeah, and like don't get me wrong,
vaporizes.
I know why it's hot. I understand that logically, but my eyes see the white and go, "Ooh, cold."
Yeah. Okay.
Whenever I go to the doctor, the once they get over the name, birth date, so they know they got their records and all that HIPAA crap taken care of. The first medical question they ask me is, "Do you smoke?" And of course, I say yes. How much do you smoke? I said, well, 3 to 5 cigarettes a day. Have you looked into quitting? And I say, no. Why not? Because I like smoking.
Okay.
That answer.
I miss smoking. I miss smoking nicotine.
I actually do sometimes.
My whole thing is I need advice. Like I have so many like side effects from my mental illnesses, right? Or like not side effects, what are they called? Symptoms? Yeah, symptoms. And like one of them is like clinical paranoia, and cigarettes and vaping really helps with that.
I mean, one of my vices is going online to piss off apologists by existing.
There you go. There you go.
Because I'm a polyamorous queer non-binary pagan.
What were you going to
So
say,
you're a
Laura?
little of everything. Okay,
Well,
I like it.
to answer Jenny's question, this is obviously not medical advice. Please always get advice from medical professionals. But with things with like clinical paranoia, finding something positive to focus your time on will probably help, because yeah, you may still have paranoid thoughts, but if you're busy building a project and you randomly get paranoid about something that's not the project, you have a project to work on.
Yeah.
Yeah, but see, like I work with dangerous tools, and I'll like more than a lethal amount of amperage, right? So it's better to just not have anything bothering me. That's why I take medication.
Oh no. I mean outside of work. Obviously, don't do that with lethal tools. Obviously.
Yeah. So, like, my whole thing is like it's better now because of the medication, but I still have it, and so the cigarettes kind of do that extra bump, right?
Okay.
So
okay.
Laura was going to say something.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Genesis, that you've obviously got something in common with Mike Pence, because he used to work with a dangerous tool.
Yeah.
Has anybody heard from Mike Pence? Do we need to put a missing poster out?
He's in witness
Yeah,
protection from the
Yeah,
huge
because
shaman.
he's incognito anymore.
He's smart. He disappeared. I wouldn't want to be associated with that trash fire. Jenny, of course.
Oh my word!
My turn.
Well, pretty much the last time Mike Pence raised his head, there were people trying to lynch him. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's worth. One of the things I learned in the voice coaching thing is that keeping your throat moisturized, keeping it not
Being
wet.
hydrated.
Yeah, but it's not just hydrated; it's lubricated. That was the word I was looking for. If you get your throat lubricated, that will
Don't
help.
go there, Clarion. Don't
Yeah, I
go
was
there.
gonna say, this could go on.
Wrong crowd. That's the wrong crowd. I think that
we're in the wrong place to use words like losing.
To be fair, I got there 3 sentences ahead of everyone else. But
in no way do I promise to act my age. In no way. I'm wearing a bathrobe and it's almost noon.
Growing old is mandatory. Growing up is optional.
I thought it was the updated Arthur Dent look.
I was gonna take the day off. Like I said, like it's Trans Visibility Day. I'm always on your show, Perp. I appreciate you letting me on today, but I was gonna take the day off because it's not about me. And I'm a raging narcissist who can't stop talking. So I have to. I'm kidding.
Is it bad that I didn't even realize Trans Day of Visibility was today?
No,
it's not something that got much publicity.
I only knew because various people poked me about if I was doing things for it.
So that brings me back to my question. What else can we do? Like, I have a 30-foot flagpole outside my house. Should I fly a giant trans flag every other day, or,
I mean, if you want to, you might get some funny looks.
It won't hurt to put it out there just because, people will ask what that one is. Just because there are so many pride flags now.
I agree.
It's amazing. Yeah.
I flew a United Federation of Planets flag when Leonard Nimoy died, and all my neighbors asked me. They all asked me, like, "What's going on?" And I told them.
That's really bizarre to me that people wouldn't know that flag, and maybe that's just me being surrounded by Trekkies.
No, that's it. I would have said I would think more people would recognize that than would recognize the trans flag.
Look at my avatar. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I really need to watch Star Trek. I really need to start watching Star Trek. I have all of these streaming services. I'm sure, like, seasons are on one of them. But, like, I feel like I'm missing out because I've only seen the what are they called? The reboot movies, or what are they? You know the movies.
J.J. Abrams ones.
Yeah, the J.J. Abrams ones.
So I like those, even though I'm a raging Trekkie.
So I didn't like them. I liked the science fiction aspects, and I liked the dialogue writing, but, like, as a movie, I didn't like them.
Okay. I do want to try to keep things on topic, and I know when we get on science fiction, we can get way off.
So another thing that allies can do, like especially today or this week, is on your Twitter feed. It's something really simple. Find a trans person in history that may not be so known about that can start a conversation, or even one that's more recent. Like, just start conversations, because there have been a lot of events that people aren't aware of that have happened. Because Trans Day of Visibility can kind of tend to get a bit dark because of natures of suicide and other comments. Just point out some positivity, find something positive in trans history, because there have been trans people in ancient Greece. There have been trans people in all sorts of places. Wherever it makes sense.
Something
that matches your interest that has trans in it.
Yeah, something I would suggest for anyone who does see a lot of like bad news and shit and stuff from history is, if you look at Jamie Rain's YouTube channel, Jammy Dodger, he does a bunch of like really wholesome trans related shit.
Yes, I'm a spud.
And Shaba. I love Jamie and Shaba. I love them both.
Yeah, Shaba is good.
They are awesome. Oh, speaking of which,
I don't know who that is.
Oh, and one topic at a time. Yes, him too.
I will sort that.
I actually speak to a trans person every day. And she, I should have said like
no idea who that would be.
I should have said like 40 minutes ago. She apologized for not being here, but she was tired, and she's on Australia time, that place that doesn't exist.
Right.
So she's asleep right now. I should have said it like 40 minutes ago. So Jen from Jen's Little Corner says hello to everybody and happy Trans Visibility Day. As I do the inclusive rainbow
hour for her.
Yeah, well, I did a stream before this that we were able to drag Jen on for a bit. So
Yeah, I saw
Um,
that in my feed. I didn't get a chance to look at it yet. So
Well,
She
getting
told me,
back
and I
to-
forgot to
Getting
say.
back to the rights of trans rights and stuff. I just want to remind people once again that the state of Arkansas has taken away your right to health insurance as an adult. We're not talking the kids treatment and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, right.
Adults. They've taken away adults' right to health insurance.
Arizona as well, and now there's other states that are following suit. Basically, what they're doing is they're hiding behind sports because they're cowards.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because
the
they're
whole,
absolute cowards.
the whole trans women in sports, because there's only trans women they care about.
It's
Oh,
not
right.
trans men. Never trans men.
The trans women.
There
in
actually is
thing-
some, but it's very minor. But I want to get to that later. But keep going.
the trans women in sports thing is discrimination under the guise of fairness.
Mm-hmm.
And what the reality is that they're really, other than maybe size, as in length of limbs, that would be I think that's the only thing that really is a justification for any of the argument.
Besides
Because-
maybe hip structure,
Well,
but
well,
even then,
Well, the way I understand it, and I'm not a science nerd, so I may have this slightly wrong, but effectively, oxygenating your blood is what makes the muscle cells propagate. So you replace your cells all the time, and if you've got testosterone flowing through you, then that increases the muscle mass. When I get hormones, which will be very soon, hopefully in about 6 weeks or so, then I will take testosterone blockers, so there won't be that muscle mass thing going. So as my cells propagate themselves and replace the older muscle cells, then they won't have as much oxygen going to them, which means they don't expand as much, shall we say. They don't get they lose their strength. And it's about 3 months to 6 months that you lose half your strength. I will become half as strong as I am now because of that reality.
I wish Jen was here. She knows the science behind it. I wish Jen was here.
yeah. The actual numbers vary depending on how you use certain muscles and shit.
Yeah.
But the general rule is about that.
Yeah.
What's important in this discussion is that we can talk all day that we want about this tidbit of biology that I think is true, or that tidbit of biology we think is true, or this study that's been done, or that study that's been done. The reality is there has never been a single transgender person who has gone into women's sports and taken anything even resembling a first place or domination of a sport on anything of a level of Division
Renee
I
Richards.
kind of stuff or above. It doesn't happen. It's legislation in search of a problem. Okay, this is just plain bullshit. The Olympics have allowed transgender people since 2003. There has not been a single transgender person who has ever competed in the Olympics. Okay, their stuff about we're protecting women's sports, that is just bullshit. It's just bullshit.
Okay? There's something I should probably mention. With trans guys, though, it gets a bit more complicated because the same hormones that help us in our transition are technically performance-enhancing drugs.
Yes.
And for trans ladies, that's very accurate, is that it's pretty easy to participate in sports. But a lot of trans guys aren't really very prevalent in sports because there really isn't a good way to... no one's really been invested. There hasn't been enough interest in trans guys. It kind of becomes an invisibility problem. Don't get me wrong. I used to be good at sports. Now I'm probably completely shit. But okay, I never really was good at sports. That's a lie. But
I think that because
just like in the bathroom bill bullshit, if they pass legislation that says you can only compete in the sport of your birth gender, that's going to mean there's going to be female to male transgender people who have been on hormones for an extended period of time who are going to compete in the girls, and they're going to kick their ass.
Yeah.
Okay, that reality has potential to happen, but the idea of and the other lie that comes through all the time is that there will be guys who are going to try to fake this so that they can.
Oh, Jesus!
So,
Yeah.
another
That's-
professor.
Don't get me started. Don't get me started.
Going to choose to be, to change genders and going to become one of the most discriminated people on the face of the planet, hated by everybody, beaten up by straight kids, and have the threat of murder on their head all the time. Not to mention losing civil rights to the extreme right wing, is going to do that just so they can get a high school gold medal.
And let's remember the misrepresentation on American television. They will only show a trans woman in sports if she's dominant. They'll never show someone who's just like middle of the road involved in the sport. It's only when somebody is dominant is when they bring it to the forefront, and that's the issue, because they're othering human beings.
Like,
here's something I want to just like touch upon. Like, if
Sam
the
was
issue-
trying to go in there first, actually.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I've been saving this for
Okay.
like.
All
5
right,
minutes,
Jenny.
but I'll
Jenny, you
wait.
finish, and then
I'll
let
wait.
Sam go.
No, wait. It's fine.
all right,
I'm really high.
Speaking of like things that like they just don't, people have clearly not thought this shit through, is the fact that I have a friend who went into a gender identity clinic, and basically their warning that they were given before going to their appointment was, if they ask you if you've ever fantasized about like had a sexual fantasy that involves you being fully transitioned, don't admit to it. They won't give you the treatment.
Oh,
Because-
yeah.
Because they try and root out fetishists, but they don't think it through. Because if you think about it, a trans person is going to want to imagine themselves sexually at their end goal where they're least dysphoric.
Yeah,
Yes,
Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah.
And
that's crazy.
you've got
this is where we get hostile and pissed. This is all out of the minds of cis people who are imagining what we are like without asking us what we're like.
Yup.
That's a stumbling block I go through every day, where people presume things about me and then treat me as they have presumed, when I'm nothing like what they assume.
So, before we like completely move away from like the sports topic, I just want to mention, if it's the testosterone that's the issue, there are cis women who have natural testosterone. Right?
nobody's listening.
Yeah,
Yeah, I-
and
Keep going.
Go on, Jenny.
Go on, Jen.
No, that's all I had to say.
the thing is,
Mhm.
along with that, it also gets like it's at the point now where like any accusation of an athlete being secretly trans or whatever, or taking testosterone, having it in their system, and it's to the point where there have been cases of people doing invasive testing pure on cis women because they were suspected of being trans.
Yeah.
Do you know
It's
what bothers me?
fucking bullshit though. Like, so there are guys who have natural estrogen levels. There are women who have natural testosterone levels. So like to say that trans women have an inherent advantage because of male puberty and how testosterone shapes muscle growth, right? It's fucking bullshit, because it's not just trans people or trans women who have influence from testosterone, right?
Yeah.
Which, like the whole point of hormone replacement therapy is to get rid of testosterone.
And here is a fun one for you, is that other things that give assigned female at birth people naturally higher testosterone levels, people with those conditions, such as polycystic ovary syndrome, are actually statistically more prevalent in sports than in other areas because they have a naturally high testosterone level. So saying a woman can't compete because she has a higher testosterone level then turns into an ableist thing.
I want to read out something because, of course, the language they use. We can't have people. We can't have trans women in sports because then men will just pretend to what's it so that they can compete in women's stuff.
Yeah.
This is an argument we hear all the time. I'm going to read you something from the Wikipedia page from Renee Richards. In 1976, she was the first trans woman who wanted to go pro in tennis.
Mm-hmm.
And Richards then sued the United States Tennis Association, which runs the US Open, in New York court, alleging discrimination by gender in violation of the New York human rights law. She asserted that participating in the sport would constitute an acceptance of a right to be as a woman. Some USTA members felt that others would undergo sex change to enter women's tennis. The argument hasn't changed in nearly 50 years. It's 45 years.
That's why I get so tired of it, of saying the same explanation over and over and over again.
The arguments are old because they a lot of the, not necessarily in sports, but a lot of the arguments that are used to be transphobic were used to be homophobic, were used to be racist previously, and now that's unacceptable, so they've shifted them forward. It's the same base argument.
Yeah. We keep seeing the same arguments recycled over and over, just inserting the name of a different minority.
They're recycled because... Sorry, go ahead.
I've got another quick thing to read out as part of the same thing, because she was seen by someone called Harry Benjamin, who was like...
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And it's talking about the sort of, the situation at the time. And this is like the, 40s, 50s kind of time. The legal, social, and medical background for this in the United States, as in many other countries, was often stark in contrast. Since wearing items of clothing associated with the opposite sex was often illegal, castration of a male was often illegal, anything seen as homosexual or was often persecuted or illegal, and many doctors considered such people, including children, as best denied any information of their gender identity or involuntary subjected to such treatments as drug detention, electroconvulsive therapy, or lobotomy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
that was a century ago, not even a century ago.
Arguments tend to be recycled because as much as I'm about to say what I'm about to say, let me finish it, is that they work. People believe them. Mm-hmm. And it kind of creates a power dynamic. Some people believe it because they feel that there's a dynamic there. They feel something in their gut. And that's the hardest thing to get rid of, because we can spout information here all day long, but that's not something actionable that can help get people out of their ruts. And that's kind of why, if we bring it back to, these are common complaints, but back to what Godless was mentioning earlier, what are things we can do? Like, there's a trans guy invisibility problem. We can highlight trans guys that are positive. We can highlight things to do that if you're gender nonconforming, these are things that resources we can bring to a cis person to go, here's support. Give common support websites. You can be an open person, like display trans rights flags in your Twitter, or if you're on YouTube, say, hey, I support trans rights, whoever you are, be you. There's things you can do as a cis person, just being supportive and being vocal. Like,
absolutely. And like here in Los Angeles, we have places that they're called the Gay and Lesbian Center, but they were established like 40-50 years ago, and they help the entire umbrella, the LGBTQIA plus community. And I guarantee you, if you live in America in a major city, you probably have one in your town.
Now, something I've noticed, because you mentioned trans guy invisibility, is a lot of the complaints that I hear from trans guys around certain issues, I feel like kind of match up with my experience as an assigned male at birth non-binary person. Because I feel like a lot of people look at non-binary as a woman light,
I think
That's
it's
not a
Then
thing.
they- then
It's
they-
not part of the binary.
Okay, I have a few words. I have a few words about that. A number of years ago, within the last decade, I believe, there was this woman who was heavily into robotics and that sort of thing. And I shouldn't just leave it on this woman. She worked in a department that was into robotics, and they were developing all kinds of robotics. And the philosophy they seemed to follow was that robots should mimic humans. That should look like humans. And what they found out over the long term of their project was that the closer the robot looked to human, the more uncomfortable people were with it.
Oh, the uncanny valley.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
Yep.
what
Yeah.
that says to
I
me
am.
is that what we really got going here is that now that we've reached a point in society where people who are NB can begin to feel comfortable going out in public as their themselves, is that they're faced with the mass of cis people, okay, the 99.5% of people out there, a large percentage, well over most, who have no idea about gender and NB or binary,
Yeah.
who are just a model of this 10,000-year history of binary science, okay? And now they're faced with a non-binary. Now they're faced with choices and different observations and different categories and different understandings. And it is just so far beyond the understanding of most human beings in society because of our natural history. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but it is there.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is. Yes.
I think it's important to highlight that, though, but I think it's even more important to have days like this. So should we have Envy Appreciation Day, but hug your bi friend day?
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I
Well,
be
and I
nice
think
to
in
a
this
trans.
particular thing that yeah,
With
I
days like-
I do
with
think
days
it's
like
fair
this-
to say that the vast majority of cis people never really give their gender much thought.
True.
I was
right.
shocked to learn that most people never have a gender crisis. Like, I had a gender crisis at 9 years old, and then I was like, "Oh, it's fine. Other people are doing it too. I'm cis, totally."
Mm.
What
I think-
days like this do is to help
Oh, that's so much my story.
force a dialogue into the conversation of the majority.
Yeah.
And the more popular a day gets, like pride parades and stuff like that, the more that message gets out there and the information gets out there and things can begin to change.
Yeah, and that's why it is necessary just to raise public awareness. I'm sorry, Jenny. Go on.
I lost it now.
Sorry.
So I am now pushing for Hug Bi People Day.
Okay.
And-
okay.
Say hi to your local trans man day. It's a working title. Working title. It's a working title.
See, I sort of exist as the local cryptid, so
Give your soul to Genesis Day.
Yeah.
My favorite day.
And
Personally.
this is interesting. Something I thought of recently, relatively recently anyway. A lot of people would ask me, how do I know that I'm a woman? Well, number one, how do you know that you're whatever you are? But then there's the other thing, please excuse me, Meth Blade, but I do not understand how anyone could want a man, let alone be a man, that sort of thing. It's like, it's inconceivable.
That's
you
the
keep
answer
using
I
that
always
word. I do not
I
know
do
what it
think
means.
you know what it means. Give Sam a glass of wine for that. But yeah, like for me, it's excuse me, I'm about to get a bit crass here.
Okay, fine. You're
I
among
don't-
friends.
I'm also among YouTubers, so I'm about to warn people I'm going to swear. It'd be very vulgar. I want a fucking dick, eventually. Like,
Okay. You can have
I'm-
mine. I mean,
I'm in the weird position of being like, also about to be vulgar. Like, about 90% of the time, I'm comfortable having a dick. The other 10% of the time, I
where
wish
am
I
I?
didn't.
The
Because
one
gender
time.
is fluid. But
the
then
one
at the same
time-
time, I pretty much always want boobs. and it's like, God damn it.
And,
I'm wondering if it's possible to, I'm gonna get my testes removed, but can I get my scrot turned into like a fuckhole?
I don't know if it's still common, but that was one of the things that was done as part of the procedure in the past.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but I
it
want to
has
keep
been.
the dick because I don't want my
Oh.
dick to go.
Oh,
But,
you remind me of somebody I know. I don't know if that's possible or not, really.
well, either way, the Humpty Dumpties are getting snipped. I don't like them.
Fair.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind being able to have an orgy. The thing is that it's not free, and I'm in a situation where I'm going to be spending a shitload of money anyway. My kidneys are shot, so there's money that has to go for that.
It figures the one time I'm not wearing my pants, but my belt buckle broke recently, and I've been wearing this, and this pretty much sums up my life.
Oh no!
I'm with you.
Love it.
Kicks are dangerous. I'm just saying.
There you
Be
go.
cautious. Be cautious.
I
And
want to buy those for almost every man I know.
When I had my screening call and my first assessment last Thursday, I was asked about what I wanted to do regarding surgery, what I might want to do regarding surgery, because a lot of trans people don't get any surgery.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, I'm asexual, so having sex isn't really a thing. I've never been interested in that. The idea of penetrating someone is just like, yeah, to me, and so it's like, okay, well, what would I need it for? So there are 4 options in general. One is do nothing. Option 2 is the orchiectomy, is it?
Orchiectomy.
Orchiectomy. So they remove the testicles, basically.
Yes. Castration. Yeah.
And that's a very common one because when you start on the medical front, you take testosterone blockers, but they have side effects.
Yes, they do.
And so if you have the orchidectomy, then no more testosterone problem.
The thing that at least in America, when you're taking spironolactone, you're not taking it. I should say you are taking it for the side effects. Okay.
Yes.
Testosterone reduction is a side effect of that drug. It's a diuretic.
Yeah.
Now, the endocrinologists are going to have a field day with me because I want both testosterone and estrogen in my system. But
That's going to be interesting.
I want to have a period of time with just estrogen in my system, but then I want a bit of both.
You see, that's not going to happen because as soon as you start taking estrogen, it is going to curtail your testosterone.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is that you say it's not going to happen, but I've been reading into it, and microdosing on estrogen such that you do still have some testosterone in your body is a thing that they do.
Well, every adult alive microdoses.
The question
So
is
if you
of each and what the balance.
you could move to California and do whatever you want to yourself.
Because I have basically done reading into it, and I have a list of questions I want to ask endocrinologists and a list of things I want to run by them in case they'll work.
Yeah. Please remember that every adult alive does microdose. Almost everyone, because testosterone is important in both sexes for libido, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Without testosterone, there is no libido. Trust me, I can tell you all about that.
Well, anyway, so the 4 options. So we've done 2. The third one is to basically have a hole. It's kind of cosmetic vagina, and it just goes to the urethra, and that's about it. And then the 4th one is the sort of full thing, and they turn the shaft inside out, and they take the bell end and they cut it and they turn it into a clitoris. It's like, oh god, it's awful looking. And I watched a YouTube video showing what happens, and I had to turn it off because I was similar colour to my curtain behind me. And I had to watch the second part, and I think because this might be me, that made me a bit more squeamish about it. I've seen heart surgery didn't have that kind of reaction, but one of the, it's like, well, being asexual, why would I need it? Now, one of the ones that I did find interesting, a trans lady I know in the north of England, she's in North Wales actually, and one of the things she said, because she's old now, she's like getting close to 80, I think, something like that, at least 70, and she said, look, I'm old, and I don't know how long it's going to be, but eventually I'll end up in some nursing home or something, and I'll have to have someone to help me. I could end up incontinent, having someone having to clean me. And I wouldn't want some young nurse, end up sort of, getting a fit of the giggles. Look at that. I'm not going to deal with them because they're just a freak or something.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
And so that's an interesting one considered.
My big thing is, along with the other stuff that's going on, a big thing with me is I want to look right with my clothes off. I mean, I'll see myself in a full-length mirror naked, and it doesn't look right. That's not what I'm supposed to look like.
Yeah.
Yeah, and equally, I used to like going swimming. It would be nice to be able to go back swimming again.
It's wonderful.
And not to be a half,
again.
Just somewhere in between. So I'm now thinking I might get the surgery, either 3 or 4. I haven't decided which yet.
Now, one thing is,
I went through all of these different thoughts of, just like everyone else. Do I want to do it? Is it the right thing? Should I just do the oreectomy and that kind of stuff? I thought I ended up going full boat on the bottom there, and I don't regret it for a second.
When I first heard people bottom surgery, I'm thinking, my ass is big enough as it is.
There you go. That's the unfortunate thing with me here, my particular situation. I don't think I'm ever going to be able to have surgery because, well, my health issues. And I'm thinking that probably nobody's going to want to work on me. Damn it. But what are you going to do?
Thailand.
Their biggest issue with
here's
BMI. They want your BMI below 25 or 30.
I have a weight.
Somewhere in there.
If it's below 30, I'm already below 30. If it's below 25, I still have a way to go. But remember, when I said my kidneys are shot, I meant it.
Yeah.
I'm not on dialysis yet, and I emphasize yet. So I can imagine some surgeon is going to look at me and say, "Oh yeah, you're a prime candidate for surgery."
Yeah. So, African Humanist has just asked something really interesting in the chat about having like a bunch of questions, but how do you ask them without coming across as ignorant? And
go ahead and ask.
The way I was going to say it is basically, it sometimes you're just not going to know things because it's not a thing you have learned about yet. So find a trans person who's willing to acknowledge that you might ask some questions that are going to sound rude.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like on
We're not
Twitter,
intending
ask
to.
me questions. Just DM me. Like, if you're coming from a place of love and knowledge, it's going to be obvious with the questions you ask.
And
If your
cheers.
first question is about genitals, you're probably not coming from a place of
Right,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But if
Like,
your
if you
first
have
question
any,
is,
Oh my gosh.
what is your experiences, then yeah, it's gonna be a
Yeah.
conversation similar
Now,
to any other
I'm-
question. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what it's
I'm
like to be.
very-
And
Go
keep
ahead.
in mind too, if you're sincere, it's that's the door opener right there, and it's easy
Yeah.
enough to tell
But-
whether someone
Yeah.
is sincere or giving you shit.
Well, let's be
in
real, like-
general,
If you come
my
to
DMs
situations
are
like
always.
this is where you learn that information. This is where you ask those questions. We
Uh-huh.
all know that 95% of the population out there is ignorant to find
Yes.
it. I don't know.
Yes. And there you go.
We expect
And
people to ask questions. We expect people to ask questions that seem dumb as
Yeah.
fuck. But if you
Now,
don't know
what-
it, you don't know it.
Let-
There are no
let
dumb
Sam
questions.
What I was
There's only
But-
a lack of answers.
Okay,
But
let
here's the
Sam
thing.
go and then Laura.
Okay.
what I was gonna say is my DMs are always open, and I'm a lot of like the invasive questions that people are curious about. If people want to ask me, that's fine. Just understand I might give you snark back if it's too invasive.
Okay.
Like worst case scenario, I'm going to give you some snark, and I'm quite happy to be asked whatever by whoever, and I'll probably try and give you a couple of different answers. Like my experience is this. I know my boyfriend has experienced this, and what have you with that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
My
And if you ask
thought,
me, you better be ready for some comedy along with it.
Okay.
for
Laura?
me, for me, my advice would be get to know someone a bit first before you ask about their genitals. I had to shock someone into, because I'm into models, and there's a model shop in town, and I went and had some model kits to sell through him. He gets a cut of the price. Anyway, so I phoned him up to say, look, I'm coming down. I've got some model kits to sell. By the way, because I didn't want to turn up and him say, oh, I don't like you people, like you get lost. And then I got to carry a bunch of boxes around town. So phoned him up, and in the time it took for him to sort of, okay, fine. And then me get there, it's like, hi, how are you? I'm fine. Are you getting the surgery then?
And it's like,
No,
go away, please. Thank you.
So, Laura, you're so much more.
well,
There are certain.
hang on, let me just finish. I had to say to him, I'm sorry, would you be offended if I asked you the intimate details of your genitals and what you might be doing with them?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah. And he was shocked that I kind of challenged him on that,
So,
But like even
Laura,
asking about your experience, that really isn't as easy as that sounds. I mean, I'm sure everybody would kind of be taken aghast if I were to walk up to Will and say, "What's your experience being black?"
That is quite literally what I was gonna say. And
Okay.
no one in real life, no one walks up to anyone and says, "Let me see your genitals. How are your genitals doing? What do your genitals look like?" That doesn't happen, So if you don't want that to happen to you, then you shouldn't do it to a trans person,
Yeah.
Yeah,
That is
that was
amazing.
just an
Bothers
easy
me.
one that, I apologize for African humanists really quick, but most of the time, a lot of people who start with that then immediately go into genitals has been our experience. But yeah, about mental health and acceptance and experience, definitely just open up a DM. It's going to
Yeah.
be pretty quick.
Yeah, and I will.
We recently became friends on Twitter, or followed each other on Twitter. My DMs are always open. You can ask me anything, including genitals, because I came from the old school where people were so offensive towards us all the time that I've had 40 years of people asking me about my genitals, and it's just water off the back of a duck.
Well, and one
And
thing
then
I've
the other
had some trouble with, which we kind of touched on before, is just if you're unsure about the terminology or the vocabulary, that you can be worried about offending someone just by using the wrong words, even if you don't mean any offense by it.
And then the other
And
thing to
there are-
remember is that if somebody on the street tells you they never think or wonder about the genitals, they're lying. It's a matter of the self-control to rein in the curiosity so as not to offend.
I agree. I've had to learn discretion even online because I talk about penises all the time, and people took that as an invitation to send me dick pics.
Hey, yeah.
Spoiler.
Now,
Spoiler.
I
Stop sending me dick
think-
pics. Spoiler. Stop sending me dick pics.
a lot of
It's
people
really
kind
fun,
of-
Will.
lot of-
I actually received a unsolicited dick pic. I received one from another trans woman. who demanded that I return the favor, and it's like, no.
Lavender lady, we've been over this. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend you.
Just because I talk about promiscuous things and I say promiscuous things doesn't give you permission to do whatever you want to me, is all I'm saying.
Right.
Here's the thing, right?
I think the thing that a lot of people, I think the thing that a lot of people don't realize, and like I've noticed less so in kind of this online community, people tend to be better with it, but like a lot of the time people will give a trans person what they think is a compliment, and then if the trans person doesn't like it, they get all arsy about it. Oh, it's trying to compliment you, yeah. Like, you look pretty for a trans woman. Or, you're attractive for a non-binary person. Like, I think I'd just rather you call me a slur.
Look where that person look where
the other one a lot of us don't want to hear is, oh, I would never have known. And it's like, what does it make? What difference does it make, really?
Look at where that person is coming from when they ask that particular question. And I'm not saying it's an okay question or they should ask it, but look where that person's coming from in that the only media exposure they've had to transgender people is likely not in their own life. It's only been media exposure. And what is the media stereotype of us? A man in a dress who has all the behaviors, all the movements, all the nuances completely wrong. And then they say, well, and this is what a trans person is. And so that's the only understanding they have it, or we're mass murderers or hookers. And if this is where they're coming from, to them that is genuinely a compliment, because they only understand us as being this group of people that look like men in dresses or something like that. And so they need correction at that, but understand where they're coming from with it.
Well, so there's been a lot of like over the decades in like media, there's been a lot of like damaging what's the word? Damaging portrayals of trans people, right? Like a lot of times it was used as the butt of a joke, right? Like I think Ace Ventura is a pretty good example. That movie did not age well at all. It's a pretty damaging movie in my opinion. I don't really like it.
I haven't seen that movie since it came out.
And it's little things like making trans people seem like some disgusting like thing to spit on the ground at, right? Like, it's not great. And I've never gotten a compliment where it's like, wow, you look good for a trans person, because I pretend to be cis in the real world because I haven't started my transition yet, and because I'm in Florida, right? It's not great to be trans in Florida. So, but I have gotten people telling me that I look femme, and I take that as a really nice compliment.
One of the things that I don't like, and it's a part of it's a hang up from before I realised what trans people were, because my reference to transgender people were the prostitute on a Dirty Harry movie, or Rocky Horror Picture Show, or a drag queen, and I wasn't anything like that.
Okay.
And so, the thing that kind of irritates me is, have you watched RuPaul's Drag Race? It's like, no. Now, I don't like drag queens. Now, when I say drag queens, I'm not talking about the people. I'm talking about the sort of the thing, the concept of it.
Right.
Not the concept. Sorry. It's about drag queens as a sort of big thing, as opposed to a drag queen, a person. It's not like I don't like someone because they're a drag queen. It's more, they are. To in the general sense, they are performers. This isn't a performance. The person portray is a character. This is me. The clothes that they wear are costumes. This isn't a costume. I'm not a man in a frock. their men in frocks, so to speak. You know,
Oh, what is her name? There's a famous drag queen who says like, you know, he said that when all the makeup comes off, he's a man. So he basically said you're not dating the person on stage, you're dating a man, and he has to warn people like I'm not going to dress up for you because I do this for a living, you know.
Yeah, and I think it reminds me. There was an old TV soap opera Australia called Neighbours, and there was this lady, Mrs. Mangle, and she was awful. She used to get loads of hate mail, but she was a really lovely person. She just played a horrible character on TV.
Yeah, well, that's a separate social issue. Is people who can't separate the actors from the characters.
Yeah, that's a nightmare.
But that's what Godless Zone was talking about, really. There.
Yeah.
Now,
with the drag performers.
This is potentially slightly off topic, but I have just stuck in the private chat a link to a post that my boyfriend made for today, basically.
Awesome.
Okay, let's see what we can do with this.
Performance and transfers. Absolutely, because even not as much because of COVID, but I used to hang out in Hollywood a lot, and it wasn't rare to see a drag queen at all. But but they're like and when I say drag queen, I mean like the really famous ones with like 100,000 followers that are filming on Hollywood Boulevard with their cameras that I can only wish to afford, you know.
And then this is the over the top character.
Yes,
is it? Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's one in particular. I don't want to say their names because I actually watch them, and I don't want to say anything bad about them because they like. But my whole point is they are performers.
Yes.
And they'll tell you to your face, I'm a performer. I'm a man, you know, and they stick up for trans rights as well. So in their videos, they say, "Hey, trans rights." And like when J.K. Rowling lost her mind, they were like, "No, we're not for her at all. We stand up with trans rights." They know what they're doing. You know, they understand the situation. They understand what they're doing, and I think because they've made so much money off of it, you know, they have an actual respect.
Well, effectively,
before we came out with medical treatment and stuff and medical definitions for us, society grouped transvestites, drag queens, transsexuals, NBs, binaries, doesn't matter, all as one group. Perverts.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay? That we're all perverts. Now, the fact that today we recognize that there's absolutely nuance between each of us does not mean that we are not still in the same group in terms of how society treats us like shit.
Well, I think the problem is that within the community we have those distinctions. Society at large does not understand those distinctions.
No, they don't. But within ourselves, we do, and we should recognize that we are all in the same boat, and that they support us. We need to support them.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But
reciprocity is the word here.
Conversations is to make the general populace more aware that there are distinctions here.
Well, that is something that I would like to see, not necessarily emphasized, but I would like to see that brought to the fore more than it is, because for a while there it looked, unless I'm seeing it wrong, that even the community was trying to roll us all under one umbrella. We were all transgendered, no matter what the finer distinctions were. So they would treat me the same way they would a cross-dresser, which definitely, oh God, I wish I could be a cross-dresser. I really do.
So,
well, and the flip side of that I've run into is that within the community, because people want to make these distinctions, and they are all, valid distinctions, but to people coming into the community who don't really understand that, it looks a lot like gatekeeping.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Haven't you noticed that's exactly what this community does? It gatekeeps itself. Haven't you noticed how many transgender people on Twitter, for example, say terrible things about transvestites? Who say terrible things about drag queens? It happens. It's happening all the time, every day.
Do you know? I still get. I'm not used.
Take the time, go out and start chumming up online with transvestite groups and stuff. Find out who these people are, and find out how many of them suddenly come to a realization after maybe a couple of years of being transvestite. They go, "My God, I realize that I'm transgender." And so
I mean,
they're in our camp. But what are we doing attacking these people who are really just a subsection of us? To us.
That's why when I speak, I say LGBTQIA++, because they look at all of us the same.
Mm.
I'm from an era where if you weren't straight, you were called gay.
I've got to take it on a slightly different tangent here, but so I wonder what the future for transgender people is, because there are some people who can't pass, and it's like, is passing a requirement? Because there is that kind of thing, unless you're doing makeup.
Man,
well, and if I can take it to a very personal level, this is where I'm at right now. That
yeah, okay.
I very much suffered from the gatekeeping and whether or not I could call myself trans, because it's unlikely I would ever be passable.
But
I don't think that's up to anybody but you. I don't think that's sorry to gatekeep. As I come in with the troll under the bridge, it's not up to anybody but you.
I mean,
just because you're
short there, so I should let her finish.
This is the point I'm trying to say. Effectively, for you, Purple, it's in your head. What you're able, I mean, for me, I don't look too bad, but I do the best. Passing is important for trans women.
Well,
the pinnacle is you walk down the street and your hair's right and your makeup's right and your voice is right and all those sorts of things, and your walk is right and so on, your body language and everything, and no one can tell. That's the pinnacle.
Yeah, well, there's also a pinnacle for that for us guys too. I mean, not just be seen as the guys we are.
Sorry, you're right. I apologize for doing like trans women.
Well, no problem. And the other thing too is there may be a carryover from the days of deep stealth when more of us had to hide. We had to be out on the street to do whatever we did every day, but no one could know that we were trans. So there's where big emphasis on passing comes from.
I think that the thing is that passing, I think, will become less of a thing as more people can accept that trans people can be gender non-conforming.
Exactly, and we also need to stop gatekeeping on people in general and let people be who they are. Like I said this morning on Sam's stream, where I live, I saw a non-binary person at the grocery store. Do you know what I said? I said, "You have a really nice coat." We had a 5-second conversation and we went on with our lives.
Here's the thing though. Why is passing important? It's because we don't want to get beaten up. That's That's when it comes down to it.
We don't want to get beaten up. We want to keep our jobs. We just want to make money.
I work
or sidelined, or not get that promotion. All those sorts of things.
And people will take the smallest things to use against you.
Because of the discrimination, and that's.
But what I'm saying is that the passing thing comes down to I've got to fit myself in the woman pigeonhole box, and if I'm not doing my nails, well, I can't be girly enough. That I'm not. Am I too trans? It's like, am I too girly or not girly enough? And what does it mean to be trans? What is justifiable? I don't know. I'm sort of rambling, but it comes down to what is my identity for me, and how much do I have to pretend to be something more just to fit into the cis person's, yes, you're okay because,
Okay, I have something to add here. As I've mentioned before, and if there's new people in the chat, I transitioned 40 plus years ago. Okay, so I got a little time under my belt with passing and all this kind of stuff. In my previous life, and I'll define that later, I had to live I felt I had to live in a very androgynous mode, and I did. And a lot of it in the beginning, I did not pass. I got misgendered all the time, and it was horrible. It was awful. But as time went on and I got better at it, I stopped getting misgendered. Even as this grubby, filthy t-shirt, long sleeve t-shirt, sweatpants wearing dyke who fixed cars. Okay? Because who I wasn't, what being a woman was, just became more natural to me, and people picked up on that. And no one will ever say, "Gee, you're really pretty." But once we've got into the discussion about that I'm trans, I get almost every one of people say, "I had no idea." Okay, and look at me, okay, and I didn't do my nails back then. Passing is for someone who wants to. For someone to say that they didn't know or they couldn't tell, or if you're a beauty queen, which some trans women are, my God, they're beautiful. That tells them that they are beautiful. That is a huge
thumbs up, Seraphim. Sorry, go ahead.
It is a huge badge of honor for their personal self. But again, it's for those people who want to achieve that.
Mm-hmm. And it should possibly also be noted that when we talk about passing, I find it funny that we kind of interchange sometimes two meanings of passing, of it being clear what your gender is, and you being indistinguishable from a cis person of your gender.
Yeah, and then the other thing to remember about passing is, at least here in the U.S., always remember to do that in the left lane.
Yeah, as fast as you can, as fast. And if you live in LA, and you're going under 70, get in the right lane. Get over. Get over. More accidents start from people going slow than people going fast.
And if you're in a monster truck, just go forward.
There you go. Yeah, I like it. I like
forward, never straight.
To kind of.
Oh, sorry.
To kind of bring it back onto the original point, if you're having trouble with questions or positive representations, if you're a gamer, play Dragon Age Inquisition and listen to Krem's story. Like, there's good, positive, a lot of representation is starting to get more positive, which is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just play Dragon Age Inquisition and listen to Krem's story. It's a good one. It's completely optional, but very well done.
And also, sorry, I'm a semi-confrontational person, and this happened a while ago. This was at a Kmart, and we had one that was open all the way up until 2 years ago, almost 2.5 years ago.
Wow.
And there was a trans woman who worked there. I had no idea. I walk in, I do my shopping, and I see all these people in line. And I see that there's 2 registers open. And I look, and she was fully transitioned, but her name tag said Brandon. So I turned around, and I speak Spanish fluently, and I cursed everyone out in Spanish, and I told them they should be ashamed of themselves for hurting this young person's feelings, and they're absolutely horrible people. I get in line, I check out. At least 4 or 5 people get in line behind me, and they all go in Brandon's line. You have to speak up. You have to say something, because people are like lemmings. They're gonna follow.
Oh, yes,
you have
absolutely.
to tell people, like, hey, you came in the store for a reason. It wasn't to judge her. That's basically what I said. But you have to. Sometimes you have to speak up, because people. they just need that little nudge of like, it's okay, you can go on with your day, you know?
Yeah. I'm sometimes shocked by people's lack of self-awareness. And like maybe that's just me having to have been self-aware to avoid being outed for one of the various things before I was ready.
Yeah, if I could just touch on something that went over about the passable thing with what Jenny was saying, that that's one of the things where it's difficult for people to who worry about the terminology and the vocabulary, is that for some trans people saying that they didn't know is an insult, and for some saying that you're so passable is a compliment.
Yeah.
And it's really saying the same thing.
They never say you're passable because they don't know that word as part of our dialogue.
On both sides of the fence, we need to be more understanding.
I have advice for dating, whether you're passable or not. OkCupid is a great dating app for people.
I've never. Well, there's many reasons I haven't had success with OkCupid or OK.
Oh, really? But like, I just like the fact that you can. It's inclusive of a lot of genders.
Well, my problem here, I have several problems, is I'm old, I'm fat, I'm ugly, I'm poor, I'm terminally ill. It's just not very marketable when you come down to it.
Dating apps are not going to work for me because I'm demisexual, so my dating pool is my friends.
I have
that's the other thing,
I'm not giving advice to the panel. I'm giving advice to anyone who's watching. I'm giving advice to the audience. Why do you guys think I'm giving advice to you? I don't know your dating lives, and I'm not going to advise them. I don't have anyone in my life right now, so I'm not going to advise you people. I'm just saying what I'm having success on as a trans person.
Thank you, Genesis. Thank you.
Yeah.
I was just being a pain in the arse, by the way, but
Yes, I feel the need to snark just whenever I can.
Absolutely.
Agree.
Oh, yay! Oh, Jenny, you were on your head there. So, that was interesting.
I'm sorry, I pushed the wrong button.
Oh man, it's so difficult for a lot of us to.
We're talking about getting laid and stuff now. Wow, that was quick.
Yeah, that wasn't actually the one I meant to highlight, but that one was relevant too.
I've done.
You know what? I'm gonna.
I've had sex in over 40 years.
African humanist, you're asking what demisexual is. If that's what you're doing, we need deep connection with somebody before we will think about hopping into bed with them. That's what demisexual is.
Sort of. I'd more say that you need like a deep emotional connection before you're going to be attracted to them. I can fuck someone I'm not attracted to.
I can't. That's one thing I discovered. Well, and maybe as I'm getting older, that's part of it too, because when I was younger, when I was in my 20s, all it took was that someone had a pulse. And more selective, much more selective.
Do you know? I just want to.
That's how I used to. Well, no. When I was younger, I was much more demisexual, but I really wasn't that interested in sex until I got to know the person.
Laura, what were you going to say?
5 years.
Yeah, I was going to say, Diana, you said you were ugly. I don't think you're ugly at all.
But
not at all.
About 5 years left on this planet. I will fuck anything, anywhere, anytime. A lot of money on this equipment.
Is that a casting call or what?
It's like that old bisexual joke. Anything that moves, and if it doesn't move, I'll give it a push.
Should I? Yeah, forget it. I was going to make a silly insult, but I'm not going to now. Anyway, but no, Diana, you aren't ugly, and not only that, I can also say, on top of, and it's not related to you. It's more. I've come across some people that are really, really beautiful on the outside. In the inside, they're awful, horrible people.
Yeah, huh? definitely. The one I like, though, is the one I've heard Kate mention so often, and I might adopt it myself. I'm bisexual. If I want sex, I have to buy it.
I'm writing that down. Where's my notepad? Where is my notepad?
Just keep tuning into.
So would you call that a Vegas sexual then?
There you go. There you go.
Because I would go there because I'm a compulsive gambler. Like the hookers got to the point where they would recognize me and be like, "No, he's just here to stare at the machines."
Okay, Sam, you've got a.
Priya, fuck yeah. Let's try and arrange that at some point. I'm gonna DM you on Twitter about that.
Excuse me.
Yeah, and for me, there just is not a strong, not a really strong link between, sex and romance. That I can enjoy either one independently. It's great if you can get them both together. But
Okay, then.
I've kind of gone beyond expecting that I'll ever find both of them from the same person.
I have
And
news.
it's a big reason why I feel I have to be pansexual, because the odds of me, it actually is completely impossible for me to ever find everything I want in one person, because some of them are just incompatible.
Well,
that
life is compromise. Sometimes you have to, I'm not saying compromise your boundaries or your principles, but everything else is negotiable.
Yep.
I have news. So I have never been able to be a part of this conversation because I've never had sex. But this Saturday, I'm hooking up with someone, so I'll finally be able to know if I can separate sex from relationships.
So
sex
I'm
is
old.
overrated, but that's
I'm
another
old.
story entirely.
I'm old, so just be safe. From the old guy, this is old people advice. Just be safe. It's what old people
I've been without it for 7
I
years.
told him to bring
but
condoms.
7? Oh, jeez, rookie.
I've been without it for 7 years, but I have had offers online. So once everybody can get vaccinated, I can actually try meeting some of these people and see where it goes.
You know what in terms of safe sex, the advantage I have for any potential future partner is that they can be guaranteed that I don't have AIDS because I haven't had sex since before AIDS was discovered.
There you go. Oh my.
In LA, that's like a first date. You meet somebody and you're like, let's go get tested.
What's funny about it is I'm 47 years old and I can say the same thing.
Okay.
My whole thing is just, I'm going to get tested regularly, especially because I'm polyamorous. But none of my partners are in the UK, which makes things hard.
Okay, then.
I can see that.
I can see that. Yeah.
Like, I have multiple partners, and they're all in the US.
As long as you're happy and being safe.
Although Von Rick makes a very valid point. Don't rely on your partners. Make sure you bring the stuff yourself.
Oh, I have.
Yeah.
Speaking about having trouble, because
I'm also going to be buying condoms. I'm not just relying on him to buy the condoms. I'm just telling him to bring condoms.
There you go.
No, so here's the thing. It's a psychological thing. If he brings the condoms, then I know he's trustworthy. If he doesn't bring the condoms, then I know he's an asshat. But I still have condoms.
Yep.
Everything I do is calculated.
And folks, here, when you're transgender, you get to do this once a week.
Okay, then.
I mean, you can alternatively have the titty skittles.
Well, for me, it's needles, but not that way. But yeah.
There's the thing there too is trying to remember where I was headed.
Patches are common now.
I mean, I put cigarettes out on my tongue, so I think I'll be fine with the needle. I don't think I need the pills. I take a lot of pills, right? I'm trying to mitigate how many fucking pills I take a day.
I understand that.
Take any pill except
Plus, isn't the needle cheaper? I heard the needle's cheaper.
Probably.
Well, my understanding, I don't know if things have changed much, but when I was starting to inquire about the needles, the supply was limited. It wasn't as easy to find injectables as one would have liked.
Needles are easy.
I think
to
it's
get.
a
You buy
lot
them on-
easier now. I think like
Yeah, needles are easier to get now.
Oh, okay, because I might consider bothering my GP for the needles again, because I would like to be able to avoid that first pass metabolism when you go oral with the estradiol. It does start to break down, be metabolized, whatever, before it even gets into the cardiovascular system and it degrades. So maybe I get a little better action out of an injectable form. We'll have to see what happens.
I've only been slowed down once on getting my supply, and I've gotten to know the people at the pharmacy because I'm there every fucking week with all the drugs I have to take, and they let me order my like a month ahead so that if there is a slowdown, I get I have time to do it, but they'll accept my order because they know who I am and stuff.
Moo. Oh my. But what is one to do? What is one to do? I'm trying to remember where I was originally headed.
Yeah, I am in the process of finding the doctors for that sort of thing. And that's
So,
I have a quick question. It's a weird one. Do you guys ever feel under pressure to constantly represent what it is to be trans?
yes.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I feel like I'm a bad representation of trans people, so I don't try.
And I'll tell you why, because as a person of color, I'm expected to know the entire history of the world.
Yeah,
when
I was
people
gonna
ask me
say,
a question.
I felt that since the 80s when I first came out being bisexual.
Oh
Like-
yeah, well, since you're black, do you know Harry Belafonte?
What movie? Which movie specifically do you want to talk about? I don't know him in person. I had a neighbor that used to look like him.
So
Yes,
Will-
I feel that so much about just usually being the only trans guy in the room. Yeah, used to it.
So do people ask you like a million dumb questions?
Yes,
Yes.
but used to it, and as long as they're respectful, I'm used to doing it. Like African Humanist brought up, my DMs are open. Now, if you ask me the same thing 10 times and I've told you where it is, I've given you a Google link and I've explained it to you, then we're getting into issues of either comprehension or I'm not explaining well. But considering other people have
Yeah.
gotten it from
Now-
the same links,
Pet peeve with that sort of stuff is don't use they them pronouns specifically for like binary trans people who you know the pronouns of, just to avoid having to say them. That's just a dick move. Because the amount of people who look at my boyfriend and use they them pronouns because they don't want to use he him pronouns for a boyfriend because they're Texan. It just pisses me off. And
So
it pisses me off, and it's generally not good.
You raised another question that I have. I'm starting to call everyone they. Is that rude?
I try to remember not to when I know specific people's pronouns, but I do use they a lot.
I was asking about that on Twitter just because I have a lot of trouble for each individual person keeping it straight.
well,
So
but
to
yeah,
speak.
there are some people were responding that that can still be taken as insulting if they have said somewhere that they prefer he she or whatever.
well,
But what if you don't know?
let me answer this with an experience I've had. With they them, I don't mind if you don't know me. If you know me, I do mind, because it becomes one of those things of, after I came out, someone who was very religious didn't actually want to use he him for me. They wanted to use she her. And it becomes a thing of, yes, I'd allow it while you're getting used to it, but if you're doing it to be a dick, it becomes
Yeah.
obvious really quickly. And
Uh,
so it matters the intent. If you're not being intentional and you're not being a dick, I don't mind they.
Okay.
If you're doing it to clearly avoid, if you go shit they, you're kind of tipping your hand.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it's kind of
okay.
one of those things of, I understand people need time to get used to it, so intentional slip-ups are bad, but unintentional ones, it's part of the nature of language and part of the nature of habits.
Like it should be that it's not an issue to just use they for everybody. But with
The
a lot
reason-
of trans people, it is used maliciously and therefore becomes an issue.
That's why I'm asking, because like I always try to side on the side of being polite, and like what Ox is saying as well. Like I was raised by old school, like
They is
old school.
polite by default.
Exactly. So I'm always constantly checking in and asking because I want to know, what is the what's polite, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Because like I said, I respect the second someone tells me, I will respect their pronouns.
I have a really hard time with the pronouns. I mean, I do try, but I come from an era when we learned a different grammar than seems to be. The grammar was stricter, as I remember it when I was a child, than it is now. And I learned agreement in number, for example. So referring to a single entity as they is difficult for me, and I think it is for a lot of people. So it's something I definitely always have to work on, and sometimes it does slip. I don't intend that it does.
Yeah.
But
Well, and that's I'm
you know what
feeling
I'm
very
saying?
awkward. Yes,
you have one person. You're talking about that one person. And what comes to my mind is they is, and no, that's
they
a
are.
certain urban grammar that doesn't work right either, and all this other stuff.
Now, I will say, as a person who usually uses all pronouns, I am this close to switching to exclusively they, them, because there are two things that happen. Because I try and be really chill about it, but either trans meds try and use exclusively she, her to say that I'm not non-binary, or people try and use exclusively he, him to pretend I'm not trans.
Okay.
And it's like both of those are shit. And so many people do it. People are about this close to losing the privilege of calling me anything except they, them, or maybe neo-pronouns if they want to be a dick.
So,
All right.
Can the panel put in the private chat their pronouns? Just type your pronouns in your name.
Oh, sure.
will be above
Yeah.
your
Okay.
pronouns.
No
I feel like
problem there.
just so I can. I think I know some of y'all's pronouns, but I just want
Mine are easy. They're he, him, or if you're mad at me, F you. I get that. Or hey, you seems to be.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what I was starting to say there, is that I'm still not really used to using the they, them, but I guess, when other people are asking mine, that's probably the most appropriate thing for other people to be using for me, even though I'm, not quite using it for everyone else yet.
I might as well.
Hold on. Purple, so you want us to call you they, them, correct?
I guess, although it's going to get something for me to get used to people referring to me that way.
Okay, so as President showing from this moment forward.
Yeah, I'll put my pronouns in both places just so everybody knows what to call me.
But I
preferences on the latter one, by the way.
No, but I think it's important to highlight that Purple I'm taking my glasses off for this one. I think it's important that Purple wants to be called they, them. So from now on, I think we should say
I'll have to change my Twitter for that.
I got a question for Math Blade.
Yeah?
So, being a trans man, do you find that you have a sort of double-edged sword situation where most of the focus is on trans women, so trans men are less visible, but at the same time, they get a lot less hassle?
Let me rephrase your question, if I may. There is a trans guy invisibility problem, but I don't think there's less hassle. It's just in a different way. Yes, there's not media stories around it, but having been assigned female at birth, there's still a lot of the "are you sure, are you X" dynamic that women tend to get. It just gets applied to transgender issues, and it's like, are you sure? You look so great in a dress. I mean, look at all this makeup. And that's kind of one of the things that I kind of
Oh
look back in college
man.
when I was still trying to figure out myself, because I'd figured out I was pretty much gay at that point. But I never really felt at home in a dress or doing anything feminine, and it always felt like a costume. And people always wonder, are you sure this is what you want? Because I was also still a little bit religious at the time, not so much
Uh-huh.
anymore. I hate religion. That's a diatribe for another day. But there's still different hassles. It's just there's still a lot of doubting and a lot of people who try to exert their influence. It's just
Yes.
done in a different way. There's
Yes.
still the same hassles. It's like for example, trans ladies in sports, that is a known issue, and people try to legislate it away. People try to legislate what we can and can't do with our bodies.
Absolutely.
It's the same.
Yeah.
It's the same token. Like, we still don't have good access in sports because we're taking performance enhancing drugs, which makes us illegal in most sports. There's still the same issues. They're just not represented from a trans guy light. We still have to use the bathroom.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
But since
There's
you're
still
on the side of it,
inevitable.
that's even less common.
Yeah,
People
like-
generally don't even think about that angle.
Yeah, I mean, the
Yeah.
solutions that people sometimes present for bathroom bills, it's like, yeah, transphobes don't think about trans guys. I mean, that's kind of a given, but a lot of seemingly trans inclusive solutions don't include trans guys either. And it's kind of one of those things of, you kind of have to fight to be here.
Yeah, well, that
Yeah.
was something that was organized as a protest against one of the bathroom bills, was that they were saying that people had to use the bathroom according to their birth certificate. So there were a number of female to males who, had the male bulk and the full beard and whatever, that were using the women's room because that's what their birth certificate said.
There's a picture. There's a picture of a woman coming out of a stall, and the look on her face pretty much says why we should leave people the hell alone and let them use the bathroom they choose to.
Yeah.
Well, the interesting thing about that particular little thing is that the
Or hormones
hater-
too. I forgot the
I-
hormones bit that we get hassled on all the time because we use needles. But yeah, go ahead.
I hate to use the term haters because that's I call it a kid term. It's a neo term or whatever. But the people who complain about the bathroom bills and all that whole thing, they don't care which bathroom we use. They don't. They want us gone.
Absolutely.
That's what they want.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and
just a
hormones,
smoke screen,
like-
really.
Yeah, like hormones. Testosterone is a scheduled drug,
Yeah.
so it becomes very difficult to get. But if you're a cis guy, it's a lot easier. And
Yep.
it's one of those things of, because I have needles, I have a special space where I'm at for them, but it's kind of a stigma because people think needles immediately and they think, oh, so you're a drug user.
Yeah.
No,
Uh-huh,
I
that
have
too.
needles. And
How kind
Like-
of non-argument is that? I mean, what
Yeah,
are they thinking about people who've got diabetes?
I was
like
just
what
about to
it
say
said
that,
here.
Laura. Yeah.
Yep.
There's a whole. There's
What
a
Alex is
whole
saying
lot-
here, that someone using the bathroom isn't the concern. Who's watching, who's going into the bathroom is what bothers me.
You know what?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
really
yeah.
funny you would say that. I don't like it when people stare at me. I'll look at them. I'll say hello, or if I'm having a bad day, I'll say what.
Okay.
when all the Target stuff was going on, when in California we have the third bathroom.
If you
And-
don't mind, I'm going to share a picture.
Okay.
Okay, sure.
I have
And
to play quite
So
a.
hold on one
Don't
second.
get us thrown off YouTube now.
Long story short, I used the third bathroom, and I came out, and somebody, I would kick that person.
Yeah.
And this man was kind of staring at me, and I looked at him like, what, and he walked away, but it was awkward because I was using the bathroom, minding my own business, and nobody wanted to use the third bathroom, and I'm like, you guys are suckers. There's lines in both bathrooms. I'm going to use the third bathroom.
There you go.
But when I came out of the, they're considered trans bathrooms. When I came out, people were staring at me. And I just went in there to use the facility and wash my hands, People
There
are
you
insane.
are.
They're insane.
I have to wherever there aren't disabled toilets, I actually have to play quite a dangerous game of I'm aware that I'm going to get shit if I don't go in the bathroom that I most fit the presentation of. Am I presenting feminine enough to go in the women's room? Because if I'm presenting too feminine and go in the men's room, I've been cornered in there by a big cis dude before.
Yeah.
But if I go in the women's room and I'm looking too masculine, I'm going to get people screaming and trying to attack me.
I see you having that problem. Okay,
I
Jenny.
worry
Jenny's got her hand up.
Yep.
The only people that are being hurt by the bathroom bills are cis women who don't have.
Yes, absolutely. And you're going where I was going to go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
A second thing I'd like to point out is Posey Parker, one of the GC, the gender critical people in the UK, has said publicly that in America, armed men should go into the women's room and see if there are any transgender people in there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I've
then
heard that.
implies, without actually saying it, they should be shot.
That better effing
course.
not happen. She makes my skin crawl.
Oh,
She
yeah.
is such a hate-filled.
That's
Hold on, I want to go off real quick. There's I always go off the list. It's Dr. Julia Long, Linda Bellows, Venice Allen, and Posey Parker. They should be considered terrorists. They should not be allowed in America. They shouldn't be allowed to leave the island. They are terrible people who are paid for by the Heritage Foundation. Look it up. They are paid shills by an American corporation who basically wants to push right-wing Christian values only. White right-wing Christian values.
Okay, Genesis.
Here's the thing, right? Like, this is what the far right and I consider like Republicans far right. I don't know if where the goalpost
I
is
consider
on
the
that, right?
I consider the Democrats far right.
No,
I
said
consider
that-
the Democrats
yeah.
right. Like, I consider the Democratic Socialist centrists, right?
Yeah, I've said that in the U.S. Now we're left with a choice between right and extreme right.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've always had a choice between right and extreme right. This is a capitalist country. Okay, we don't need to get into this. What I'm basically saying, I lost my train of thought.
I'm sorry.
It happens.
So, to
Thoughts
kind
are
of
like trains. There'll be another
Oh
one
no,
by in
this
20
is
minutes.
this is what the far right is like fucking doing, or trying to implant in people's minds that trans people are vermin, are subhuman, are disgusting, are things to be destroyed, right?
Daj korostu.
I
And
think
so-
Tria's got it here. I'm sorry. Finish.
The last thing I'll say is it's honestly really uncomfortable when people my mom says that I'm not gonna get into it. It's too personal. No, I'm sorry. I'm gonna retract on that. All right, I'm done.
No big deal. Every time I talk to my mom, she brings up religion because she could care less who I'm dating. She thinks being an atheist is the worst thing on the planet. So
if she thinks being an atheist is the worst thing on the planet, she should meet me.
Well, I
other
did
thing,
want to go
Tria-
with what Tria said here, that no one fucking cared about bathroom safety until they realized trans people were more common than they realized.
it's true.
Uh-huh.
It's
And yeah,
so
that's
true.
really what it's all about, is that They want the trans people to go back in hiding. They don't want to see
They
them.
don't realize.
And then
how
the other
common
part of
Dude,
that,
are.
I
the
hate.
other-
Of 1% of the population. Somebody do the math.
1%
What was
of
that? Sorry.
1/2 of 1%.
Mhm.
0.3 actually.
what is
Let's assume
what you,
the United States.
Well,
population-
350 million people in the U.S.
It's
so
0.3.
that's 17.5 million people.
looks like it's 332
Yeah.
million.
Yeah, we're in the 330.
Well, yeah, that's because we've lost 200,000 to
I'm
COVID.
not going to quibble over a few 100,000. I really
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, worldwide, you're probably looking at kind of in certainly in the millions number.
Oh,
So,
sure.
The other thing, Tria, is we trans people are more common than anybody thought. The other thing is they needed another target. Do you notice when you started to see the bathroom bills? What happened around the same time? And it was the acceptance of same-sex marriage. When the far right, which is almost everybody in the United States, but that's another story entirely, realized that that battle was lost. They needed another enemy. Guess who? Yeah, you know.
Another
Yeah.
factoid to carry with you, cis folks. Transgender people have been officially recognized in the language of medicine, politics a bit later than that, but language of medicine for over 100 for about, let's just say 100 years. Okay, let's keep it simple. There has never been a single case of a trans person accosting somebody sexually in a women's room ever.
yeah.
Ever.
Also,
No,
Jenny, I would like to point out that your 1/2% is an older stat. It's now at 1%, at least in the UK.
Yeah, I don't. I've heard that. I don't know if I accept that, but
I cannot.
I've got to point out that actually there was someone a couple of years ago, some trans woman who assaulted in Glasgow, I think it was, who assaulted some kid in a women's bathroom. So it has happened at least once.
Okay, but
Yeah.
one thing I noticed, I think it was yesterday or the day before, I noticed on.
In 15
okay,
plus years, yeah.
I'll accept
I know-
that.
Again, go on, sorry.
Well,
I think there was a post on the Twitter that more United States senators have been convicted of accosting or sexually molesting anyone than trans people.
Oh, definitely.
And they're
Yeah.
and they're all Republican senators.
Yes.
too.
Yep. Interesting, isn't it?
That's
Now-
one thing. That's one thing. I try to be nice, but why is it that? And I see this in the trans community as well. I get sickened when I see a trans person speaking out against other trans people,
Okay.
such as like Rosa
Blair
Dawn,
White, ugh.
yeah, or
Yeah.
Rosa Dawn. Rosa Dawn, like, I don't know, she got radicalized. Something happened to her where she lost her damn mind.
you know, there is one trans person I'll speak out against, and that's Jessica Yaniv.
Oh, I do. Okay, jump on me if you want to. Complain at me if you want to. I'm not sure Yaniv is trans.
I knew
I
you were
was
gonna
about to say that. I was
I
just about
knew.
to fucking say that.
I knew you were gonna say that.
See,
I'm
I
just
don't
too
know.
predictable. I know.
I don't
Blair
know
White
one way
is
or
the
the
one
other
who
if she
gets
is,
me
and I
because she's
don't.
like, obviously,
Oh.
if you have enough money, you can look good. And
Yes.
she's like, that, yeah, since I got mine, anyone who can't do it as well as I do doesn't deserve to even mention it.
And I always ask the
Mhm.
question about Blair White. Why did she move to Hollywood? Hollywood is one of the gayest places on the planet. Every other person is under the umbrella, and she moved to a neighborhood that is predominantly successful people that are LGBTQIA++. Why did she move to one of the most liberal places on earth?
I think you answered your own question, Will. It's, so she can be near the people about whom she's complaining.
That won't harm her. that won't do
Yeah,
anything because people live their lives around here. At least try to. It's not
Yeah.
all paradise. Don't move here. It's not all paradise. I'm just
California's
saying.
better than Arkansas, where I grew up. Let's just go with that.
True. You get more acceptance. People won't throw tomatoes at you or spit on you. You know.
I
I'm
would
gonna
like to
join
get out to
again.
your neighborhood. A friend of mine lives in Hollywood, but I haven't seen him in almost 50 years. His face, anyway. We do correspond on a regular basis, but that's the only reason. Al is the only reason I'd like to get out there.
Yeah. You know, I do want to say, as far as for being a good ally, if anybody wants that, Tria is an excellent role model for this.
Well, Tria is...
Yeah, she's just in one of the most marginalized minorities, but she is always there being supportive of everyone else.
Of all the big
Absolutely.
sweeties out there, Tria is one of the biggest.
Yeah, Tria is good people.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and people like Tria are probably very useful, especially and Laura can vouch for this. Me and Laura just live on Turf Island.
Yeah.
So I have another question.
Yes, dear.
How do we stop? And I know this, and this is beyond the legal side, because I think as a people we're gonna have to deal with the legislators. But I'm saying, how can we stop erasure? People forgetting about people such as yourself. How can we stop that today? Like, what kind of visibility? What can we do to, what more representation is needed?
I've got to use the line, but it's from Henry VI, Part 2. The first thing we do is kill all the lawyers.
To quote Jean-Luc Picard, sounds familiar.
To actually answer in a serious manner, things you can do is just have conversations with friends about trans people, get educated, find someone trans that's in your area of expertise. If you like medicine, find a trans doctor. Talk about the confirmation that just happened. If you like gaming, talk about or find different representations in gaming. If you like computer programming, there's a history of trans stuff in computer programming as well.
Yes.
Find your niche. There's going to be someone in there who's trans, and just spend the day talking about them, or find an event. If you're a social media junkie, there have been social media stories about different events that have happened because of either trans backlash or trans support. Just find something that makes sense for you and then explain it.
And the main thing to
do a search on Google for transgender, transsexual, and an occupation.
I have a recommendation of a trans person to look into or study, or just I don't know, one who's interesting. Unfortunately, they died, and it was really tragic, and I was heartbroken because they were in The Bride of Chucky. Alexis Arquette, great actress. They're in Pulp Fiction, Bride of Chucky. She's all that, and Spun.
So, and then there's the other thing to do, though, and we can all do that, as long as it's not going to put you in danger of life and limb. Be that trans person out there. Let everybody know, just by living our lives, that we do not have three heads.
Absolutely. And Diana, you reminded me of something. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Sam.
So, I have some thoughts I want to share, but first I want to come back to something that Mathblade asked if we could come back to ages and ages ago, about how you would, because you were just mentioning, Mathblade, about find someone in your field who is trans. Do you have any tips on doing that? Someone asked in the chat earlier, and I don't think we addressed that bit.
Well, it kind of depends on what field. Certain fields, because they're my hobbies, I'm a bit more knowledgeable in. But it also depends on what hobby it really is. Some things it may be as simple as Google, or using a history. Sometimes it may take a little bit more of being more knowledgeable in that field. And I know that's kind of a cop-out answer, but spending that time looking is going to be a good thing because
Yeah.
it's very trans people have been common throughout history. Like some people
Well,
who are
yeah.
history buffs mention ancient Greece or the Egyptians. Like there have been one topic at a time. Ended up having a meme that kind of this is going to be a bit of a segue, but he does great videos with memes and Reddit reviews. He had one where they went out of their way to try to avoid labeling the burial as trans, but this person, and they said so far is the Egyptians made a mistake when they buried them, but
Oh, I think I remember this one.
Yeah, Egyptians don't make mistakes when their entire life is about burial, but you can kind of go through and find different erasure of both of gay and trans and other issues by historians because either they're so used to things being cis or they just don't accept LGBT issues. And I'm using the term whitewash, but there is no good gay wash or trans wash term. Or they
Mhm.
try to whitewash different things as history is never existing.
But
So-
gay wash,
Yeah.
gay wash sounds like it smells good.
As far as looking for
You're not wrong.
once again, folks, do a Google search for transgender and transsexual, and I'm going to explain that in a moment. Historical, okay, and you will find all sorts of examples.
Yes.
Now, when I say transgender,
yeah.
transsexual, I'm spelling transsexual, TRANSSEXual, sexual.
And let's
With
not forget
two-
about
with two S's.
Christine.
But
Christine
you can also
Jorgensen.
spell it with one S.
I would also like to bring up Marsha P. Johnson
Christine Jorgensen.
Yes.
Mhm.
because for those unfamiliar, Marsha P. Johnson was a trans woman of color at Stonewall, and if memory serves, she threw the first brick.
Yeah,
Oh,
people try to
okay.
erase that
I
so
can't
much.
remember the name and I'd butcher the pronunciation anyway, but they have also found that one of the pharaohs of ancient Egypt was a woman, but is even depicted in the carvings as wearing a false beard.
Okay. And for those who are interested in some of the deeper aspects of computing and computers, Lynn Conway.
Oh God,
She is my hero.
she's brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like
And
we
don't
need
be
to get like
surprised when you
a
find
day of like history in schools. Like honestly,
and don't be surprised when you will find that there have been transgender people who have had pivotal roles in the Civil War, in the American
Yep.
Revolution,
Yep.
and other military, and other military events.
And everybody's familiar with the story of Mulan now, thanks to Disney. But in virtually every war, there were examples of that, of women who dressed as men because for various reasons they felt they needed to be part of the combat.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Something else that's worth remembering is that America is not a safe place for transgender people.
Oh, you've got that right. Oh,
For-
you've got that right.
44 transgender or non-confirming people were killed in the, what was it, the first
This
half
week?
2020.
Yeah.
You know,
and that's with the COVID going on.
Well,
Yeah.
and I have to say,
most of them being black and
I was
Latino.
about to say, I always stress this. It's in America, it's mainly black trans women. And I'm not saying that for any other reason than it's just something that needs to be highlighted.
but I've always been out about being bisexual for 25 years. I had pagan bumper stickers on my car. You know, I was a little nervous in some neighborhoods, but the idea of the transition period of starting to present as female has me very worried just with how neighbors are going to react to me coming in and out of the building. It's the
Oh,
first time I've
yes.
really been
Yeah.
scared of physical violence.
Oh, good. I remember those days.
I would like to make a proposal for all
Yes,
you
dear.
folks in the chat, and maybe your friends and maybe your families. One of you or a couple of you do an experiment. Go out in public dressed so that you are as passable of a woman as you can be, and see what it's like.
Assuming you're a guy, if you're watching.
Yeah, assuming you're AMAB.
And if you're a woman and you want to try it the other way, go ahead. But Most
Yeah,
of the
I feel like
pressure
a lot of I feel like
guys.
a lot of men would actually really benefit from that.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I learned so much, and I know it's going to
Count
sound
doing it on
cliche,
Halloween.
but I
Yeah.
learned so much when I transitioned
Yeah.
because you see things, you live things that as trying to live as a guy you never noticed before. I never noticed that, like walking at night. As a guy, I wasn't worried about anything. I am now.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it's funny how I sometimes will make myself less anxious walking down the road at night by increasing my dysphoria and taking my bra off.
Yeah.
And just be like, okay, no, I'm just going to present more masculine and no one's going to bother.
Yeah, and Jared here brings up the transpanic laws still being a thing. And that's,
Yeah.
it's sickening, but it is still a legal defense in court.
Yes.
If somebody got pissed off because they thought you were a woman and found out you weren't born that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Specifically if they were
in
intending to engage in
14
sexual interactions
states.
with you.
I believe it's still something like 40. I thought it was 30, down to 33 now.
Yeah,
I know
but-
one got rid of it recently.
Yeah.
I think that
But
was
then
Arizona.
it's a legal defense in court because they were confused about your gender. Nothing you did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, now I want this. I acknowledge this sounds an awful lot like shilling, and I guess it sort of is. But we did a D&D one shot recently on One Ring 42's channel. Basically just invading like Kent Hovind's Dinosaur Adventureland, looking for his tax returns. And
All right.
the reason I bring this up is that the DM and 2 of the 3 players were all non-binary, and so we got a decent chunk of like MB rep in there, and also we got to piss off Matt Powell as an NPC, which was very fun.
All right.
If you want a laugh, go and look at that.
I would go along with what Dornham had said here. And, I know this would never go over with the general public, but I would think that would be an excellent lesson, probably for high schoolers, really, that for at least one day they have to try to dress and live as what they perceive the opposite gender being.
I would not
Oh,
recommend
okay.
that to
Gosh,
high
what's
school
it called?
students at the risk of bodily harm.
Yeah, I know it would never really go over, but I just kind of like the concept.
I've forgotten what
I
I
do
named
too.
it now, but there was a really famous psychology experiment back in the 60s, I think it was. And it was basically showing people what racism was. And they had to wear something or other. And, and it just really showed it. It was, I've forgotten.
Yeah. I think I know what you're referring to, but I can't really come up with names for it.
You mean the one where it was like the blue eyes, brown eyes thing?
Yes, that was it.
Yes, it was. I know it as the Jane Elliott experiment because that was the teacher who initially conducted it. And for those unfamiliar, basically, kids were told, I forget which way around it was, but of blue eyes and brown eyes, that one eye color was superior to the other.
Yeah.
I remember that one.
And that they were inherently more stupid in lessons. And then I think it was the brown-eyed kids who were more stupid. And then the brown-eyed kids started doing worse because they were told they were doing shit. And the blue-eyed kids started taking the piss out of them for having brown eyes.
What about people with black eyes? My eyes are so dark, they're black.
Well, you just have to be a brownie for a while.
My eyes are they reflect back everything because they're so dark. They're brown, but they're basically black.
Fair. See, I have really dark brown eyes, but they're still noticeably brown.
Yeah.
I don't think I can do brown. I think mine only changed from green to blue.
Well, so what happened in the experiment?
Which one?
Effectively, it was showing that prejudice is learned. It's not,
basically.
Behavior.
I didn't hear you give a conclusion to it. I'm sorry.
It was showing that prejudice is a learned behavior, and if it can be learned, it can be unlearned.
Yeah, because they then had to teach the kids to unlearn it, and they successfully did. Actually, pretty quickly.
Well, it's like the judge who a lower court judge who set up Judge Waring, who basically set up the Supreme Court with the arguments to pass separate but equal is not constitutional. He was I won't say he's a racist because I've never heard him called that, but he was absolutely a typical American who was not very accepting of people of color in his day. And he, because he learned of a couple of different cases, particularly Isaac Wardock. And if you don't know that, go find the story. It's horrible. He changed his mind, and he became an advocate for people of color. And like I said, basically set the Supreme Court up with the material and lower court findings that they needed to destroy separate but equal. So yes, people can change in quite radically. And this is all in the span of a year or so.
And the thing is that understanding is one of the biggest factors in that sort of thing. Where, like, I think it's Daryl Davis or something like that, who's a black guy who goes to KKK rallies and de-radicalizes high-ranking KKK members. And so, like, that's kind of a demonstration right there that you can change someone who's very bigoted. Like, a lot of people will say, oh, there are some people you can't change. I'm of the view that you've got to weigh up whether or not it's worth your time and effort, but everyone can be changed.
Well, people can change, but it usually takes a very personal experience. That it has to be them or someone they feel extremely close to that's affected before they'll really examine their ideals.
There's something that I think is really, really weird about America. And I say weird, I mean it in a rather negative sense, actually. And that is that they are trying to do the Equality Act again. Because this is something they tried to do in the 60s and the 70s, and they couldn't get it to pass. And all it does, it means that it's just a amendment to the Civil Rights Act. Where, sorry, it was done in the 70s. That was it. It was done in the 70s. And all it does is prohibit discrimination on the basis of sex, sexual orientation, and gender identity in employment, housing, public accommodations, that kind of stuff, federally, effectively.
Yeah, well, kind of.
And they haven't been able to do it. Equality. I mean, even a month ago, they were having a debate on whether some people should be equal or not.
Yeah.
How is this a question? How is that?
No, because some people are more equal than other people.
Yeah, why do we have to be passing these laws and have people as protected groups? Isn't the whole idea just supposed to be we should treat everyone the same regardless of what pigeonhole you stick them in?
It really comes down to, the answer should be yes, always yes. And if the answer is no, go look in a fucking mirror and ask yourself, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yep.
Well, I remember years and years ago, someone I knew who was not born here in the U.S., I think he was born in Romania, made a statement that I found profound. He said, "You Americans are lawless people. That's why you have so many laws."
It's true.
And
that's a good point.
In the UK, a lot of people follow a lot of societal standards and sometimes even actually assume they're laws when they're not. So a lot of adults assume there is a law that a 30-year-old can't have sex with a 17-year-old. There isn't, but people don't do it because they assume that's bad.
I at my age, I consider underage being 35 and under.
I'm conveniently 35 exactly. So
out of the question.
And yesterday, Sam told me I'm the same age as his mom.
Well, I say
I'm in an interesting position. I've been on both sides of an age gap.
I'm so sorry, Sam.
Married.
I'm so sorry, Sorry.
Yeah, when I was officially married, my wife was 15 years older than I. And my longest relationship, she was 13 years younger. So it's very interesting when it comes to age and me. I'm no stranger to age gaps. In neither case, by the way, was age the problem.
And I don't care. I don't care who they are as long as they're over 18. Give me a call. Give me a call.
See, I have previously, I've previously dated someone who's like a decade older than me, and
Okay.
the age gap wasn't the problem. It just didn't work because he couldn't listen to boundaries. Like I said, don't do this. He did that. It was like, fine, you don't get a second date.
Maturity always comes into play because you are more mature than I am. So, and so maturity always comes into play,
Everybody, this has been super fun, but I actually do have to hop off here for a little bit, and I apologize.
Aw,
If you're still going later, I will hop back on. But
you poo-poo head.
just everybody, if you get a chance, look at and promote one trans person through your feed or through other means, because that would be awesome, just to make sure we're more visible. Or find one in your hobby and educate yourself. Whatever you can do would be awesome. So thanks, everybody.
Nice. It was
Also,
nice to meet you.
Everyone go check out MathBlade on Twitter and Twitch.
Thanks,
Moof
everybody.
beef.
Bye-bye.
Take care,
Bye.
honey.
Take care.
Bye.
Hey, and you guys in the chat, if anybody wishes to take up my challenge of going out and see how well you can pass and what it's like, I will be perfectly happy to consult you through DMs on Twitter if you want to do that and give you tips and how to do it and see if you can be successful.
Sirloin
I really, I mean, remember the book Black Like Me?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Where the guy he younger people aren't going to know is he took various chemicals and stuff that would make him appear black, and he shaved his head.
Yeah.
Various things, and then went around living that way for a period of time, and wrote a book about how absolutely horrible it was how he was treated.
Well, this was in the Deep South, if I remember correctly, in 1968 or some shit like that.
Step into somebody's shoes and really find out what it's like, and if you're a writer, it might be a damn good thing for a book.
So that book was required reading at my junior high school.
Excellent.
Oh,
That's
nice.
quite cool, actually. See, I actually, I know of a similar book where, and this was more of a fictional thing, but a woman wrote it. I think she got I forget the exact influences for it, but basically she wrote a book about a guy who went into a world where men and women's roles relative in society were completely reversed, including like the amount they were assaulted and got catcalled and shit. And just him learning how much of a dick he'd been.
Okay, then.
Interesting.
I think I remember the situation in question. I don't remember the book or anything, but
I don't remember the book either, but I remember having the plot explained to me and being like, "Oh shit, that's really clever."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's been a couple of popular movies about that, about a guy who suddenly woke up and found himself as a woman, but yeah, they don't go into those aspects really about how much more women are harassed.
It tends to be more about what the person can do with their body, which is slightly uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
also,
Doorknob had found it.
awesome.
Baracoste?
Yeah.
Oh,
By
1961.
journalist John
Okay.
Howard Griffin. Thank you for that, Doorknob Ed.
Moo. Very, 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 very moo. Yes.
I just got a package and I wonder what I ordered.
That
Well,
happens to me every time I find a package.
Oh, I recently got some incredible.
Yeah, I bet you'd like to find a package.
Well, yes, after we've got the vaccinations.
Oh, and I'm very happy that it's really weird that these boots are platforms, so they make me taller, but somehow that helps me pass better for femme, which is really funny. But like the front is 3 inches, the back is 5 inches. They're knee-high boots and they've got pockets.
Well, the
Pockets?
reason that the high boots help is because people expect women to be a slighter build than men. So making you taller makes you look slimmer.
Yeah. And like I know logically what the reasoning for that is. It just feels really weird that making yourself taller, which is the more stereotypically male trait, makes me pass as femme more.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you have the look, and also, I live in the land of tall people. Where I live, I'm 5'9" and I'm short. Everyone around me is 6 feet or taller. Like
I thought you lived in California, not Scandinavia.
yeah. But everyone moves here. Every person who was told they were hot, every prom queen in America, every person who wants to make it moves to LA, you know. So we have a lot of tall people here.
Oh, that tall stuff doesn't work for me. I mean, if I wear lifts or something like that, I just look like a tall fat broad. You know, what can I tell you?
I want cowboy boots because I'm insecure.
Oh, okay.
I want that much more height.
I would wear heels because I like how they looked and sounded and felt. And
I love cowboy boots. I love the click.
I don't know about cowboy boots, but I have one heel.
I use this to walk now.
And then there's the old Gallagher line in the prop comic. The difference between cowboy boots and high heels is the distance of the elbows from the waist.
Oh, yeah. I remember that routine.
Yeah, you know, you've
So
got
I
high
have-
heels and cowboy boots.
These are my everyday.
It's the other way
ones.
around, but you know.
I've kicked the holy crud out of these ones, but I wear these every day.
Yep.
And these are my old when I used to go out and be social, these are my old Las Vegas boots.
Oh Christ! I had a pair like that, but in black years ago.
I miss going out. It's been a year.
Yeah, I've lost a bunch of pictures, and I think I've got one of my old hard drives I might be able to recover them from. But
See, if
when
I,
I was with my fiance, I did, some going out in public. So I have a pair of knee-high leather boots with 4-inch heels.
Oh yeah.
See, my slightly fancier going out thing is literally just this watch.
What size
Oh,
is
that's
it? Can I borrow
right.
one?
You inspired me. I forgot because I've been dressed like a bum all day. I forgot to go put my watch on. But you inspired me yesterday.
This is a watch that my granddad got given for his 18th birthday. And when he passed, he gave it to me. And so now it's like, whenever I have something slightly fancier to do, it's like, I can wear it.
Okay, then.
Yeah, so I have school in an hour, so I have to get dressed.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm gonna leave.
Well, thanks for sharing your thoughts with us.
Sure. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Bye, honey.
I'm kind of a lame trans person in the sense that, like, I'm also a lame half Asian person because I don't pass on either of those things, so I just don't try to speak out on those things. Like, the Dr. Seuss thing is not my fight.
Well,
that's
kind of why I need you here, though, is I need people at all different points on the scale.
Moo.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm gonna head off. I gotta get my welding leathers on, which is gonna kill me in this Florida sun.
Oh God!
Peace.
Yeah.
Don't talk like that around Purple. You're going to get him all excited.
Well, yeah, only because I couldn't bring my arc welder with me.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm learning stick. I'm learning small 1 and 2. So yeah, that's what I'm working on. It's fun.
I love my welding leathers because they were so heavy. They were so tough. You know, you get molten steel splashing on you.
Okay, yeah.
Before I leave, I'll show you my welding gear, and then I'll leave.
Well,
hold on, I'll be right back.
I brought out my welding gloves because they're the only way I can play with Sloth Girl's cat without getting my arm shredded.
Okay, yeah.
I still use my welding gloves whenever I can, for no reason.
Sorry, I can't do welding gloves. I could do oven mitts.
Here you go, Jenny. Genesis. Hold on. There we go. I got you enlarged now.
Yeah.
Tayo korostu.
I'm not sure about your lighting, but that looks orange.
I'm not gonna put these on right now because I have to also put on a different shirt. This has polyester in it, so I'm
Those
gonna head
are
off
the
now.
sleeves.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Right.
Take
And
care,
so-
honey.
Jen has a YouTube channel and a Twitter, which changes occasionally if they get kicked off Twitter again. And they are also part of a D&D game run by Jonathan, Dishonest Ape, and it's called Nat 1 Heroes. Just to kind of shill for the person who's just left.
Yep. Yeah, and I have made sure that everybody's links will be in the description, after YouTube finishes processing this.
Awesome.
So yeah, in all of my chats, everybody can always come back later and there will always be links for everyone who was on the panel.
So, in my tradition of questions, when
Yes,
are we
dear.
gonna start kicking off all these new holidays? Because we have to start them. So I think Appreciate NB Day is next. NB Appreciation Day.
Okay.
We should have Hug Your Bye Friend Day.
There you go.
They Them Day. Respect the Pronouns
Well,
Day.
Okay. Last week we had the Create Your Own Holiday Day, and I mentioned that I'm trying an experiment with this, that tomorrow's stream I'm declaring World Apology Day. And I submitted it to all the sites that I normally get the obscure holidays from to see if anyone will print it next year.
So can I kick off? Well, I want to.
What
I
I need to know about this is, did you start the email with, "I'm really sorry to do this, but..."
Mhm.
I should have.
Now,
Actually,
here's the thing,
two
you
of the sites have emailed me back for more details on the origin of this.
I'll make it
well.
up.
Now you've got to be really careful when you're talking about it that it's Apology Day and not Apologist Day.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Okay, so to kick off Apology Day, I would like to apologize in advance for anything asinine that I'm gonna say in the future.
Yeah. Well,
Thank you.
actually, it's
Thank
tomorrow
you.
night's stream. It's actually Friday is World Apology Day because
Sounds-
it's the day for people who like pulling pranks to apologize to all their friends and family and hope they're still speaking to them.
But this sounds a whole lot like Monty Python. We apologize for the previous apology.
I don't like pranksters, so if you, I don't like April Fools. So if you come at me, I may hate you for life.
Yeah,
If
no,
you come at me wrong.
I have always hated April Fools.
What's the difference between April Fool's Day compared to the rest of the fools that are around the rest of the year?
See, my solution for April Fool's Day is to pick a friend that I've seen recently. Say Happy April Fools, wait till you find out.
Okay, Tria wants to bankrupt me.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had a friend who, well, sadly she died when she was about 19, but she was Italian heritage, and her last name was Fula, Fula.
Oh no.
And her
Oh,
parents
wow.
named her April.
April Fool.
Yeah,
I
you know,
hate when
parents
people
do
shit
these
like
things and
that.
think it's a cute joke without thinking about the fact that, your kid is going to have to live with this for at least 20 years before they can go to court and get it legally changed.
See,
So,
I have a relative whose initials are EMH.
Emma?
Emergency medical hologram.
well, I
Oh, okay, fine.
grew up
and so
in
it's
a
just
headlight
like
Jewish community, so there, of course, were a lot of Steins. And one of the kids I went to school with was Franklin Norman Stein.
Oh no.
So it was Frank N. Stein.
I actually got on my title of a name, my last name technically was the third. And when I became 18, I got it removed. Immediately, I got to.
Let's have a national "Don't name your kid something stupid" day.
Yes, so
I
many
think
could benefit.
Don't
I
follow
find it really
trends.
funny
man.
that I'm aware of someone who's called Dude, and I've noticed a pattern where sometimes people with obscure names, it's like your CV will get thrown out of most places, but there are certain places that will hire you based on your name.
So is Dude their legal name?
Yeah, that's the name their parents gave them as a kid.
I know quite a few
I
people
feel
named
sorry for-
Sunshine. I know quite a few Sunshines.
I feel really sorry for the person, a Dr. Edward Bowler. You know, E. Bowler.
No, no.
I honest to God,
yeah,
I honest to God knew a doctor named Dr. Hart. He was not a heart doctor, as it turned out, but he should have been. I knew an orthopedics guy who was Dr. Armbruster.
Oh, jeez.
And
Okay.
my favorite
pretty epic.
gynecologist was
There's
Dr.
there's-
Beaver.
My
a British transgender doctor.
My-
You know, then they diagnose and stuff like that at Charing Cross Hospital in London, and their name is Dr. Bell Ringer. What kind of name is that? It's
Oh,
like,
it's better than
you
it's
know,
better
with a
than
name like
ballet.
that, it's like I'm going to become a trans doctor because I've got to. That's just
my stepdad went to university, and one of the lecturers was called Dr. Hedge, which of course led people to just write hog on the end of his name.
Tapailake.
See, that's one of those
My last name is something that always ends up in a dumb joke, and that's why I don't dox myself. It's less for that I care about people who know my name. It's more that my last name, it's it always ends up in a dumb joke. And after
See, my little sister's name is Elizabeth, and she started sometimes introducing herself as if she has to use her full name. It's like, "Hi, my name's Elizabeth. I've already heard all the jokes," sort of thing.
I know someone whose name is Karen, and she is the quintessential Karen.
Oh, no.
They named Can I Speak to the Manager after her because I swear she invented it. I told her I wouldn't go in public with her anymore if she wouldn't stop complaining about everything, you know. And then Corona happened, so we
Well,
don't go in public anymore.
That is one prediction I am confident in making, is that in 2021, Karen will not be on the list of most popular baby names.
Yeah, so true.
Kind of internet problem that we got everybody dropping out at the same time.
oh,
Was
Okay.
it me? Was it
okay.
me?
No, we
So
had
my,
four of
my
you all
Wi-Fi
drop
dipped.
out at the same time.
My internet's been so dodgy lately that
Yep. And I don't know what happened to Sam because the picture didn't come back.
Sorry, my Wi-Fi dipped.
Your picture
No,
isn't
it-
back either,
Yeah,
Purple.
no, Sam, it wasn't you. It was four of you all disappeared at the same time.
Purple never has their
Well, isn't my avatar showing there?
yeah,
No,
you're
it is-
back.
No, not now, but it
Not
was.
on my screen.
It is on mine.
No, it's not showing on mine.
And
I
Diana
gotta take a
disappeared.
little break here.
Anyway,
Okay.
I was going to show you. I was saying about last night. I completely lost control.
Okay, it looks like on YouTube everything's
Whoa.
back to normal. Yeah, you were saying, Laura? What?
I was saying that last night I completely lost control.
Uh-huh. I don't know what it is, but Sam and you, Purple, on my screen are not showing your avatars, but that's okay.
same-
We
same.
can
Well, when
still
I
hear
click
you.
over to YouTube, it's showing our avatars there. So
Yeah, it's
Oh, Mato Pelekise.
it has a huge lag, but it's showing us.
yeah,
Yeah, okay, I see. Oh, he's over there on the thing, in the thing with the thing. And what am I talking about?
okay. Well, yeah. As long as it's clear for most of the people watching in the side there.
Clear as mud.
Well, that's what I get when I warm up because I'm purely driven on snow.
Okay, then.
Sam, are you still there?
Yes, I am still here. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Tayo
Making sure.
Korosto.
My Wi-Fi has been awful lately, and then last Sunday they shut my power off for almost the entire neighborhood for almost 8 hours, and they said they fixed all these lines and everything was going great, and then an hour later everybody's Wi-Fi turned off, and you could hear people coming outside saying, "What the F?" It was actually quite funny to see how we're slaves to technology.
Well, what's really interesting
Yep.
is here in this neighborhood, relatively speaking, we lose internet quite a bit, and it's usually because a line snapped. So they've got to come out and fix that and the whole thing. Yeah, I've been without internet for most of a day, many times, and it's like right in the middle of a show, for example.
Where I live, it's people hit power poles.
Yeah, well, that's
Uh-huh.
I had the same thing as you, Diana. What was interesting is, I had a time where I couldn't afford to pay the phone bill for a few days, and so they cut me off. And it's amazing how much I got done in the week and a half it was,
Okay.
stuff done. No
So
internet, loads
it's
of,
It's funny that you'd say that, Laura, because the last Sunday when I had 8 hours to myself, I got things done that I've been putting off for months and months and months. And because I'm a total geek, I just put on I picked a season of Stargate, put it on my portable DVD player, and just carried it around my house as I was cleaning and doing things, little things that I've been ignoring, things that need to be fixed to certain cabinets,
yeah.
There's a really good video you can find on YouTube, and it's Dave Gorman's Google Whack. And basically, he's got to write a book. And I'll start on chapter 1 of my book as long as I painted the kitchen, done a million other things, and I'm going to just check my email 7 hours later. Because he's a famous person, so.
That's what happens to me all the time. Is it's like, yeah, I'll get started on things, and just going to do a quick check on YouTube to see if any of my favorite people posted something. And it's like, yeah, 6 hours later.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
See,
I had that same cycle. Sorry, Sam.
I have a lot of executive dysfunction, which just means that I don't really have another option. So the best way I can think to explain how executive dysfunction is for me is just that sometimes I will sit there and I'll be like, I want to go and get lunch. I want to go and tidy my room. I want to go and meet up with my friend. But until I'm this close to being unable to do so, I can't do it. I will sit there in bed for 2 hours trying to make myself get up and get lunch.
Well, okay then.
I'm like that too. I have this thing at the end of the school year where I start hating every administrator and everybody. And so I get really antisocial.
I'm not familiar with the phrase executive dysfunction, but that sounds like I may qualify under that. Laura, what was this link you wanted to share?
I mentioned Dave Gorman's Google Whack. There's just a link in the side chat there.
Yeah.
In the private chat.
Well, yeah, I'm putting the link in the Google chat there.
Just right-click it, open in a different window, watch it later. You'll love it. Very
So executive dysfunction is a neurodivergence thing, very specifically, typically autism and ADHD.
It's also a description of the Trump presidency as well.
Well, that too.
Well, that's I was last week was into the psychiatrist's office for a whole battery 5 hours of assorted testing. So we're revisiting whether or not I have ADHD. It's been dismissed before, but the more people I talk to with it, the more I'm thinking I do have it.
I've seen that as well. Like, this is what ADHD, and it's like, sounds an awful lot like me.
Yeah.
So you guys have probably spent enough time talking to me for me to go. Is it fairly obvious that I have autism? For example.
Yeah, I'm sure you're on the spectrum somewhere.
No, but it's not like as someone who works with people of all kinds of disabilities. No, not necessarily, but that's the problem. When I walk around in society, I try not to diagnose people because sometimes you'll overdiagnose or underdiagnose.
But like, I feel like it's fairly obvious I have some sort of neurodivergence.
Well, okay, I have to say it's obvious to me, but that's because I have it and I've known so many people with it. That's something I pick up on. So, being obvious to me does not mean it would be at all obvious to most other people.
Absolutely. And like I said, I work in the field.
I went to a specialist when I was a little bit younger and asked for a diagnosis, specifically around autism, but just generally. And they said, no, nothing. This child is neurotypical.
I had been in and out of therapy for 28 years, and they'd never figured out the autism. And largely, I figured it out self-diagnosing and taking a quiz online. But when I showed the online results to my therapist, who referred me to a psychologist, they both said, yeah, we should have caught that.
See, I then went back last year and was like, hey, here is a list of 50 reasons that I think I have autism. They just looked at the list and went, yeah, no, you have autism.
I do have I'm SB myself, so I now that I know what it is, I can kind of see it in other people sometimes.
Well,
but of course, the difficulty is that it has a broad scope. Because some people have it a bit and some people have it more.
Yeah.
Some people look at me and they wonder, do you really have it?
Well, and I understand for me too, a lot had to do with, the time I was growing up, but in the 70s and 80s, not many people had heard of it.
Yeah, but I didn't get diagnosed until 2010.
Yeah.
It was only because I met a friend who's 10 years younger than me, and they'd been diagnosed. And when I met his mum, it's like, you know what, I think you might have it as well. And
yeah, it was 2007, before I got the diagnosis for it.
Yeah, so like I say, it's been a while. Anyway, I'm going to go in a minute, but I'm going to finish on a bit of lyrics from a song.
Well, this is probably a good place for us to wrap up. So you do your thing, and then we'll just go into the shilling round.
Beef.
So it's from "I Won't Back Down" by Tom Petty, and it's well, I know what's right. I got just one life in a world that keeps on pushing me around, but I'll stand my ground and I won't back down. And that's what I have to tell myself, and when it comes to hostility. I'm being me, and that's it now.
And that's a wonderful note to wrap up our discussion here on.
Tayo korostu.
Absolutely.
Okay, so Laura, what do you have coming up?
I've got my second gender identity clinic assessment. That's coming up in about 4 to 6 weeks, is what I've been told.
Yeah.
And getting blood tests between now and then. And I've got voice coaching and laser hair removal will be coming, which now is the perfect time to do it because you need to have a couple of days stubble for them to find the hairs.
Mm-hmm.
Wearing masks is perfect for it because you're hiding your face most of the time. So yeah, that's what I've got coming up in my life, and it's going to be great because I'm going to be on hormones for the summer.
Yay!
Awesome.
Nice. Sam, how about you?
So I have theoretically in the next week, but family shit keeps coming up, so we'll see. I have a video on pronouns coming out. Then I have kind of a few live ideas that I might, now that I've done my first live, I might at some point. And then next week, the first episode of Pub Religion is coming out, which is a podcast me and Will are starting up with our co-host Maddie over at Science Side Up. The premise of which just being a pagan, a Christian, and an atheist walk into a bar.
Okay, then.
And so that's going to.
And the reason why that happened is because you were all looking at your bloody phones.
Mhm.
And so we're all gonna. So we're gonna be doing that, and then I scream into the void on Twitter. Sometimes it screams back. And I now have Instagram. Fuck knows if I'll do anything with that.
Alrighty then. Yay.
Yeah, Diana, do you have anything?
Oh, a little bit this, a little bit that. Go for you, go for me. Actually, I do have my channel, The Lavender Lady. Link over in the side chat there. On Sundays at noon Eastern, I have the Coffee with Lavender show with my co-host Bionic Dance and my other co-host Mum Nato, and occasionally Tornado in a Junkyard. And on Tuesday, the same personnel have a show at 7 p.m. Eastern. And with any degree of luck, we may get Mama Atheist joining us in the near future more often. She was by on Tuesday and worked out so well, we may continue that tradition. I'm trying to make my cooking show more available. The Transgender Chef, that's with its own channel. And just trying to keep busy, basically, and hopefully I'm doing well enough at it. Come on by and say hi and join us for some rousing good times. Yay, yay, yay.
Yay.
Okay.
Yay. So, I am Godless Sewing from the Godless Sewing channel. Please go subscribe and all that other stuff. Every Thursday, Jen from Jen's Little Corner and I do the What the Fuck stream. And we have a new co-host, Kitty the Atheist, will now be joining us every week. And she's there every week anyway.
Oh, boy.
So that's awesome. And everybody here, as always, is always invited every Thursday. And this Thursday, because Jen, she's really busy, we're going to have another sewing circle on my channel. And that'll be 7 o'clock West Coast time, 10 o'clock East Coast time. Be there or be square. And as always, wear a mask, don't be a dick, and try to respect pronouns and try. I try. I'm the old guy, and I try. That's all you can do.
Well, I'm very trying, but that's another story entirely. At least that's what people tell me.
I struggle. I come from that rigid meathead era, so I try.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're not anywhere near as old as I am, so don't worry about it.
I come from the era where people wore their collars flipped up, though. To age
okay, then.
Okay, and for me, well, I'll be back doing a lighter chat in about 33 hours.
You'll be talking about lighters?
Yeah, why not? We'll make a holiday out of that.
Okay.
National Butane Day or something. I don't know.
There you are.
I like it. The industry needs you.
Yeah. Oh, hey, maybe I get corporate sponsors.
Exactly.
Brought to you by Zippo.
And then I'm usually on with Will and Jen on Thursdays, and usually with the shills and Fridays at 7 Central. And kind of popping up randomly other places. I try to be in there with B as often as possible, and whenever Granny will let me in.
Oh, that's right. And B does streams every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 5 o'clock. So you should go check out B as well. She's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, she is. Definitely. Oh, and one thing I forgot to mention, on Fridays, I don't know what time anymore. I'm trying to work this one up, but I'm trying to do a series called A Day in a Life. And how we were talking earlier, and I had mentioned, just be out there and let people know that, you're trans, you don't have three heads, that sort of thing. That's what I'm trying to do with A Day in a Life. So hopefully I can drum up some interest in that, and they get to see a trans person as she is day to day, basically.
Okay, and I would like to take the opportunity to thank all my supporters. Robert X has been here shilling out all the links for us, who is also sending me money on Patreon.
Awesome.
Yay.
And also helping me with support on Patreon is Vonric, Junie the Apostate, Ox, Mikey Famine, Diana here.
Who the hell is that?
Yes, this lavender lady. And Greg Hartwick, which I am still amazed that anybody is on Patreon at all. But,
I am so happy that you're getting patrons now. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so it is helping, and it's paying for the subscription to StreamYards, and whatever's left over is going to be going for upgrading hardware.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate fact of life that hardware does cost money.
Yeah.
I just spent $50 on photographic equipment.
So, well, thank you, everybody. Any last words before I hit the button?
I think we're pretty well set. Yay.
Take a good look. Trans people clearly become invisible again tomorrow.
Yes. Or at least transparent.
I have my special glasses on.
Yeah,
we've all seen
my,
that.
My
movie.
my dad is transparent. He's got a kid who's trans.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, we see right through that. Okay. Bye-bye, all.